Welcome back to another episode of the Wrinkly Brain podcast. This is a SmoothBrainEDH affiliated podcast where we let the goof, gap, and just harass each other every week. I'm your host, Ethan, and today with me I have Jason, Logan, and our new face, Matt. Matt, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm just a regular person who somehow is on SmoothBrain, I guess. I've been playing Magic since about Cons of Tarkir time period. I really got into EDH around Aether Vault Kaladesh, around the release of Commander 2016. To date that, I play just a wide variety of decks. There's no real consistent theme to them at all. So that's me.
Hell yeah, fellow cons boomer.
Yeah,
Cons, boomers!
I love that I can be called a magic boomer, even though I'm like not old at all.
Magic years, it's just like dog years, right?
I mean, it feels like it at this point.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who still tries to play Boomer Jund in Modern, which is now called Boomer Jund. When back in my day, it was just Jund.
Back in my day, you couldn't just play a deck that was worth the GDP of a small nation.
Exactly. Now it's worth the GDP of a small nation with MH2 cards in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. To the astute listener, Cameron is not here this week. He went to go watch a baseball game and then watch the Super Bowl or Super Bowl or whatever it's called. So we can't really harass him this week, but he'll be back the next episode. We miss him so much. But to fill you in is Logan coming back on, and we're so thankful to have his beautiful little face
So
here.
that was the official excuse. Actually, my lawyer strong-armed Cameron into letting me in on this episode, so that's why I'm here. Thank you very much.
Frack your lawyers.
Of course,
Yes.
the lawyers.
Sorry, we got the 5 minutes of no cursing at the first 5, but frack your
Yes.
lawyers.
How dare you and your lawyers with all your darn rules and nonsense.
Computers are still cringe.
How am I supposed to get all my cursing in, Ethan? What?
The back hour and a half of the
We'll get
episode.
there.
No.
We will survive.
Let's get into the main topic. Let's get to the main topic, and we will resume our verbose statements. And that's even grammatically correct. So, our main topic today, as we teased last week, Rule Zero conversations. It's a very important aspect to EDH in general. What is a Rule Zero conversation? How should you have it? There's a lot of different nuances to it, depending on your play group and what you want out of the experience. But starting out, what is Rule Zero? Logan, would you mind reading the Commander community's official statement?
Yes, the person with actor training will read the Rule Zero conversation to Rule Zero, the rule to you. Rule Zero is a long-standing tradition in many games. It is the philosophy that each group is best at deciding what is most fun for them, and are encouraged to change the rules within their group to make that happen. Commander does not have an enforcement arm. Nobody is going to break into your play space and take away your commander privileges if you decide to ban some more cards or start at a different life total. Rule Zero does not allow a player to unilaterally announce rule changes. It stems from a group consensus and discussion. If you sit down with a play group you have not previously played with, be prepared to have that discussion and undo your proposed changes if they are not comfortable with them.
So basically, you can just officially change the rules however you want as long as the play group agrees. This has a lot of different ways you can go about this, ranging from things like changing basic rules of the game to having soft ban lists, unbanning, or inviting things that aren't even official parts of the game to play your specific game of Commander.
How do we feel about it, guys?
Who wants to go first? Because I think we kind of have two sides. Me and Ethan, and then Jason and Matt. So who we want to go first?
Let me fight you.
All right.
Fisticuffs, young man. Go ahead.
Fisticuffs, let's go. I don't see a reason for this to be an official stance because people are going to do it anyway. The concept of playing the game how you want to play the game, absolutely, it's a game. Go ahead and do that. I don't care that much. But having it as an official stance really just serves to complicate matters more than it serves to actually help it, because people would just Rule Zero anyway without it being an official stance. This just makes it so that things like tournament organization, and it becomes a lot harder for people to have like an understanding of a rules enforcement body at all because of Rule Zero.
Yeah, I'm going to just buzz in with Jason here. I feel that Rule Zero really almost feels kind of like a cop-out by the rules committee, because they say that you can just change the format how you want to. It makes them kind of seem like they take almost a hands-off approach and don't really try to address certain issues in the format that are definitely prevalent now, that Wizards has really started to push into the commander-focused design, but they go a little overboard with it sometimes.
So I wanted to disagree with the fact that it's a cop-out or that it's not necessary. I think if people are doing it anyway, I don't think any harm comes from acknowledging that it exists. I think that it's kind of an acknowledgement of the social aspect of the format, that the rules committee knows that people are going to do it, so they're going to put it out there so that it's something that they're publicly in support of. So there's no, there doesn't have to be a discourse about like, oh, you're getting against the spirit of the format that the rules committee is trying to institute. With all that said, though, I think they need to take a much stronger look at cEDH if they are taking this stance, because with cEDH being a format that kind of I will say it doesn't have a rule zero conversation, but the rule zero conversation essentially is anything goes, which is a rule zero conversation in itself.
Pre-established.
Exactly. So
It's
yeah,
understood.
and it uses the EDH ban list, so it allows like the rule zero. Essentially, this rule zero statement doesn't work in conjunction with cEDH because anything goes. So I think the I think the rules committee needs to be a lot more hands-on with banning for cEDH, because you can say, hey, your casual group, you can just get rid of whatever you want, which I'm fine with. I think that's a good statement for them to talk about because, again, it upkeeps the social aspect of the format. They're acknowledging that. But cEDH interacts with that statement differently in stuff like Thoracle, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point in the podcast. Not in this
You
one.
rage about?
Future.
Yeah. We're definitely going to be raging about that card.
Or just pick your most hated card in cEDH. You can't really rule zero ban it because you're basing it off the ban list that's present, and you can't really rule zero out something in cEDH, if that makes sense. So, with the caveat of cEDH needs to be looked at more strongly, I think the rule zero thing is actually like a positive thing for them to have a statement on.
To push back completely on your cEDH stance, I think Rule Zero is fundamentally why cEDH exists. Because there's that understood knowledge of we are wanting to play with the most powerful cards and play as fast as we can, and we're all wanting to win. We're wanting not necessarily quick games because stacks exist and different people want different play styles, but there's that understanding. While there's some cards that like Flash was definitely a problem, it's still that understanding of we just want the most powerful things available in the format. There's a whole debate of Thoughts Oracle should be banned, shouldn't be banned, as a whole different topic. But to say that Rule Zero is wrong about it does not work with cEDH. Rule Zero is the exact reason why cEDH exists as I wouldn't say a subformat, as a collective group of players that do that. There's the Rule Zero conversation is understood, is acknowledged just through deck building and saying I'm playing cEDH. That just tells you everything you need to know for a Rule Zero conversation.
Let me rephrase.
I think it's for Rule Zero.
Let me rephrase. Rule Zero interacts is different for cEDH. That's really what I was trying to say in that long-winded statement. Yeah, the Rule Zero conversation is different.
The Rule Zero conversation
that needs to be acknowledged.
cEDH is not. You don't even have a conversation. You just kind of already know what's happening. If you sit down to play cEDH, everybody just knows what you're doing, what your deck is and does. You just go from there.
Compounding more on that, I personally think that Rule Zero is one of the better things from that. I understand why it can be confusing or not necessary, but to have that in its official game stance protects players from trying to cultivate their own space. If you go to an LGS and say, hey, I don't want to play against that, someone could be offensive towards you and assault you based on wanting to cultivate a play style you want or a play group, a play experience you want, when that's the point of the game. People are assholes.
Yeah. And I will add,
and that is
Rule Zero as a framework for fun games is something I do very much like. My only concern about it is having it as like an official stance, talking about like changing ban lists and changing baseline rules to the game. I get a little bit questionable about. But I do also acknowledge like it just doesn't need. It's gonna be there, and it's good that it exists. It's just like it doesn't need to be an official stance.
Yeah, I think that it being an official stance makes it really awkward, especially like since I'm the one that mainly plays in a lot of Commander events. It's kind of weird, like trying to diverge that, like, hey, we can't really warp the rules in this event, even though it's a commander event, and even though it's just weird. It makes it a little awkward.
Yeah, commander events are something. Uh, for those of you at home, wouldn't be aware of this. We've actually had an entire script written for how to do talking about commander events, and we intend to talk about that more at some other point. And the main conflict that we keep running into, and we want to try to understand this issue a little bit better before we present on it, is the Rule Zero conflict with tournaments.
Because they're just directly opposed. Having to cultivate a play space, but then having to completely ignore the foundational principle of the format in order to create a competitive environment. That's why cEDH works in tournament play a lot better than casual.
Yeah,
EDH.
because when when there's prize support, it's no longer about fun, which is, I think, the entire basis, like the RSCE in the Rule Zero statement comes from, is we're trying to cultivate a fun environment, and the events kind of don't allow that.
Speaking of fun things you can do with Rule Zero, though, there are some absolutely fantastic things you can do with Rule Zero, in particular for Commander, right? One of the things I love to see is people doing alternate commanders. Like, for example, I personally don't love silver border sets very much, but I absolutely love seeing Baron von Count in my commander games because that's just such a fun commander. Destroy target player is an excellent line of text, right?
I forgot he does that.
Yeah, he does.
Great.
And it makes sense. Then there's things you can do like playing Planeswalkers as your commander. This is a little bit more into the Brawler Oathbreaker category of things, but that's also another Rule Zero conversation we could talk about here. But if you want to play Nicol Bolas Dragon God or like Tamiyo Field Researcher as your commander, that's fine. I have no issues with that. Similarly, if you want to play like 5-color creatures or other creatures that feel like they should be legendary but aren't, popular one is Chromanticore or Taminoa or the Nephilim Cycle.
Why weren't the Nephilim legendary? I'm still upset about that.
It's really weird to me they were not legendary.
They did address this kind of later, that functionally they are legendary within the world of Ravnica. They just didn't make them legendary at the time,
which is weird. Yeah.
So
to go back to the silver border subsection of that, it's important to remember that Wizards uses silver border sets as like playtest sets for black border sets. So previously we saw modified appear in a silver border set, and it has now appeared in Kamigawa with slightly different rules text.
Was that actually something on the playtest cards from Mystery Boosters, or was that actually a silver border thing?
I think it might have actually been a playtest card. So yeah, I mean that playtest set was cool, but I think it still does happen. That was a bad example, but it does still happen that like cards. You were going to say something, Ethan?
I was going to support your point. Like Surgeon General Commander mentions mutate before mutate.
Oh yeah, that's a better.
Like there's like a little bit of that stuff like that.
Yeah, but stuff that. Yeah. Well, I guess in a way, Dr. Richard Garfield, or I guess Richard Garfield PhD, was kind of sort of a playtest thing for the arena only like planeswalkers that let you like conjure up stuff on their upticks and downticks and stuff.
Don't remind me.
In a sense.
But no, to keep it like paper focus. Yeah, there's definitely stuff that like silver border you could absolutely play in black border, and it wouldn't look any different other than the fact that it just has a silver border.
Adding into this, the new Unset, Unfinity, I believe is the name of it, is actually going to have black border cards in it for the sake of playing it in Commander, or at least mainly for the sake of playing it in Commander, which is to get around the Rule Zero issue, so to speak, of letting people play silver border cards in Commander.
Sawn half.
Maybe a little busted.
Sawn half Dockside.
Yeah, Sawn half Dockside is insane.
Maybe Sawn half should be silver bordered Wizards. I think if you somehow find this podcast, should change that.
Please change your mind.
I'm assuming production's too far along to change that, because they couldn't change Zephyr, Thunder Conductor, and Collector to be correct when after they figure that out. So I'm assuming they have products printed.
God, I love that misprint so much.
Wait, what was the
hate it so
specific
much.
misprint?
Why?
Because I don't remember this.
So it's Zephyr, Thunder Conductor, but in the rules or the text box of the card, it refers to itself as Thunder Collector.
Yep. Oh.
Wait.
Yeah. So it has two different names on the same card.
Thunder Collector Conductor.
But guys, which one do I Pithing Needle?
Thankfully, Thankfully, you don't have to worry about that, but I can see that being would that even
No,
would that cause issues
No,
with
it
server play?
wouldn't.
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so.
so.
Because
Thunder
it's
Thunderconductor
official
is not a
rules
legal name. The name of the card is
It's no
Thunderconductor.
Borborygmos or anything.
Oh yes, one of the weirdest moments in Magic, the name Borborygmos.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Before
Oh,
that
yeah.
rule got changed for Pithy
Ooh.
Needle. Yeah.
Yep. As long as there's mutual understanding, that's all you need.
Yep.
So another alternate commander will be using non-legendary creature or legendary non-creatures. So I know Jason, you had at one point built a Book of Violet Darkness from AFR. You built a deck around that, which was
Yeah,
so hot.
Simple budget zombies deck. Wasn't like anything too fancy, but I just wanted to beat people in the face with a Vecna token.
I'm trying to think of some other good ones. Like, would Magic Mirror be any good? That one seems really
No,
You
bad.
could
but-
do, but it'd be a little odd.
I mean, I guess you could.
It'd be odd.
I feel
some
like I
of the
could find better ones, like ones I would actually want to play that aren't Magic Mirror. But I guess I could see it.
The Weatherlight's one that people like to do.
If I can be a
Weatherlight's really
weeb
cool.
for like half a second, you could get a Miranjo altar from Ranking of Kings for Magic Mirror and play that as your commander.
Another one that's that people like to do is Ginju of the Realms, since it's a legendary enchantment that becomes a legendary creature.
Oh yeah.
But that one has really fallen off of popularity. Like that was a popular thing to do when I started playing Commander, not currently.
Yeah, I remember back in the
Mhm.
day, one of the popular ways to do this was to use like the Kamigawa flip creatures that were started out as non-legendary. and then
Yeah, I was
became
actually about to
legendary.
talk about those. Yeah, like Bushy
Yeah.
Tenderfoot. Even though I would never want to put Bushy Tenderfoot in my command zone, like that's an example of one.
I
Madoka
love-
Gardener is probably the most popular one.
Oh yeah,
I
for
was
sure.
I was just about to say Badoka Gardener. That was one of my personal decks from back in the day.
So there's a lot of ways you can take non-commanders, non-legal commanders, and make them commanders. But what could you do to spice things up a bit to the commanders that already exist? I know one way to do this, like adding colors to a commander deck, a mono white deck being red white, or so on and so on. So what are some good examples of those?
So Saram is one that people will often bring up as a good one for this to either like add green or add red. Like it adds a whole lot of options to that deck to either build it towards equipment or to build it towards Enchantress. But it's a completely unnecessary one. So Saram's phenomenal even in mono white, so
Mhm.
you don't really need to do that.
Yep. What do we put him at? A 10 on the Zur Scale?
I think the
Or 9?
baseline build was an 8 and 10
Oh,
on the Zur
yeah.
scale when it's optimized.
I
We'll
think
talk about
it
that
was-
later,
I think it was like a 9.5, if I remember correctly. He
I
was,
mean, we
like,
don't no
borderline
fractions,
10.
no fractions in my
Yeah,
house.
but like
This is a call ahead.
it's a call ahead. But if we could have had fractions
Yeah.
on it, I think it would have just been a 9.5, not a 10.
I will say I've been wanting to do a Prismatic Piper week ever since Prismatic Piper was printed, but everybody always says no because we would do broken shit.
Yeah, I would. Do
Yes,
that.
because you are very good at doing
I
broken
don't
shit.
know. Call back to one of our earlier EDH videos where we had mono green rogue rack.
Yeah.
Okay, that was fun. That was
That's
the
fun.
Secret Santa deck. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So proud of that.
That was
one.
such a cool deck.
So proud of that one.
A similar idea though. One of my friends, he absolutely loves Zadahedron Grinder. He wants the effect to be able to target one creature and then copy the spell across a bunch of different tokens. And he always wants to add usually green to it so he can play. I think it's called Silver for Partisan. It's like a 3-mana werewolf that whenever a wolf or werewolf you
Oh,
control
yeah.
becomes target of a spell, you make a 2/2 werewolf or a 2/2
Oh, that seems
wolf.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, like solid card. He just wants to make sure he can have that effect, and I kind of understand his perspective on Zada because it does feel a little restrictive with Zada, but Zada's pretty good too. So
Yeah, I guess you also get second harvest.
To go
if
back
you
to the
add green.
Nephilim.
yes, let me add one color to my Nephilims.
Well, no, I'm on the Zada thing. If you just Ink Shredder Nephilim, if that was legendary, that
Yeah.
would fix the problem. Because Ink Shredder Nephilim essentially is that, but just
3 more
add,
colors.
Bant to Zada.
That's true.
But it does target every single creature, not just yours.
But that's way funnier.
It is
Like,
way
have-
funnier. Just
Yeah.
rile
Have
everything.
you ever
is like,
wanted to chaos warp every single thing on the board?
Now I do.
okay,
I
so
do.
Rule 0 week. I dibs on Rule 0 week for Ink Shredder. Just
All
letting
right.
you guys
I
know.
like
Alright,
it.
let me
I wanna see
let
it.
me add Rule 0 week to our video
Yeah.
suggestions tab.
That's just for us. Honestly, if you guys don't want to see it, I just want to do it.
And
It's going in the Discord.
as a topical shout out as well, this week Commander Versus from Star City Games in episode 276 was all about adding a color to a single legendary creature. So if you want to see some interesting decks that were built out of that, then go right ahead and just check out their video on it. It happened literally the week of recording. So another one people like to do is building your own partners, which kind of falls in with what you're doing about that Prismatic Piper week thing, just adding a Piper to a legendary
Yeah,
creature.
Just get a Piper.
But like the most common one that I see people do is Brothers Yamazaki, which makes
It just
perfect
makes
sense.
sense. Yeah.
It makes so much sense. Might as
Yeah,
well.
and the new to Kamigawa Neon Dynasties, the cousins Yamazaki, which is like Norika, and I can't remember the name of the other one.
Yeah,
But-
but they're like, but they have actual like effects outside of just being together. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, still, yeah, I think that would be, those are cool partners just as a callback to Brothers Yamazaki.
Now, creating partners, which similarly adds colors to your decks, sometimes it can create some really cool synergies. This is one I'm a little more like, that's kind of broken, because partners are really good.
Yeah, that's more of a flavor rule zero for me. Like, these two
Yeah.
clearly go together, so let's put them together.
Yeah. But in the case of Brothers Yamazaki, you don't even add a color. It's literally just two Brothers Yamazaki.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think rule zero partner Thrasios and Kinnan seems a little fucking broken. Yeah.
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 don't even-
I don't want to think about
Don't
that
even
one too
put that
much.
thought in my head, please.
Good, I'm not. Take it out.
Rule 0 week, guys. I'm ashamed.
Rule 0 week.
I will. No, you don't
Then
get
I
to
will
be
refuse to play in that.
banned.
But you guys already don't like every other deck I build.
Ethan, here's my rule zero conversation with you. No.
I got so much flack already for the Hinata deck that Jason and I played yesterday for our Kamigawa videos, which at that point should be out. If you guys want to go check that out on our channel.
Yes.
Small little plug. Yeah, I got some looks and a lot of, okay, Ethan's comboing off from Logan.
Because you were comboing off. Ethan, you took an Ethan turn, Ethan.
Hey.
So another
Yeah.
good one that you can do is custom commanders. Real question: have any of you all ever built a custom commander before?
I have not.
I have not.
No.
All right, I think it's really cool to do this, like getting a group and doing this. This is something that we did for the tabletop gaming club that I was in college. We each got a planeswalker that was built after us that could be our commanders. We'll say custom commanders always run with balancing problems.
Mhm.
Most of us don't have the same design sense of professional game designers, so there's usually mistakes that are made, particularly when doing something like planeswalkers.
I mean, doesn't Wizards already kind of do this with their own end of the year cards that they give out to staff?
Kind of.
They build them custom commanders based on what there is, and even them having professional game design experience, a lot of those are something else.
Yeah, but they're not like intended for.
I feel like those
yeah,
are
they're
meant
not
to
like
be
intended
though.
for like mass distribution and like play. So
Like, I feel they're meant to be really good to help make it more special for that person that is
Yeah.
gifted the card. But the reason why I've never really considered doing custom commanders is I feel like I would either be really bad or really good, and balancing it seems like a lot of work. But it'd be an interesting challenge.
Or we can take the cop-out answer, and also not exactly a full cop-out, but there is r/custom MTG, right? There's an infamous guy, I think his name is Aryatho, who he posts a legendary creature for Commander every single day. Dude has made over 900 commanders at this point.
that is insane. So we could just steal one from him.
Why?
Steal with permission,
No,
maybe.
Steal, not steal. Liberate with express permission if you wanted to.
Yeah. Trying out, testing out some of these types of commanders, like that would be a fun episode, or doing something along those lines. People submitting custom commanders or something that they think that the respective player would enjoy.
As long as we make sure it's balanced, because having an unbalanced game like that would just cause a lot of unfun.
Excuse me, sir. I
gameplay,
want my
and
1
that's
mana
not fun to
Emrakul.
watch.
Thank you very much.
No, you cannot get your
Specific
1 mana Emrakul
The
Day
Aeon
on Scorn.
Scorn, not the not the Promised Land.
No, can I just have the other one? That's way more fun.
As if it's like a 2/2 flying pro instance, I'll give it to
But
you.
I just want to take your turn for 1 mana.
That's mean. I'm upset
Don't
now.
worry, you get another one afterwards.
I will say there's a meme subreddit that's now like dead at this time that was called Custom Uro, where people would just make Uro just different templating. It was really funny.
Wait, seriously? Why did I
Because
not
it
hear
was
about
like a
this?
very small thing.
It was
That-
like
That's a
before Uro
quality
got
shit
banned.
post, though.
It was
I love that.
it was a good shit post for like a couple of weeks after.
That is Magic
okay.
the Circle jerking at its finest, right there.
Oh yeah.
Mhm. So if you're bored with actual commander and all these other options don't really suit you, change the rules even a little bit more, right? There's commander variants. Tiny leader is obviously the best one that is still totally around. And with Kamigawa and Neon Dynasty tiny leaders is just the best new
Kamigawa
format.
Tiny Leaders just got way better.
So,
It did just get way better.
A real serious question as the commander veteran here. What's tiny leaders?
I'll let you Google that later. But there's different commander variants. Brawl, I would count as commander variant if you want to change things up a little bit more. Pauper commander, which in that format you take any uncommon creature or planeswalker, make that your commander, and the rest of your deck has to be full of commons. And so it's kind of like the Pauper format and like for competitive, but doing it in a commander way. Oathbreaker is another one. I'm not too knowledgeable on that one per se, so I can't really give too many details. Does anyone else know a lot about Oathbreaker?
I mean,
That's the one with custom spell, right? The signature spell.
yeah. So you choose a creature or a planeswalker, and then you get your signature spell with them, and that also has command tags.
If I
So
remember correctly, it has to be a planeswalker.
It has to be a planeswalker.
oh, my bad,
Can't
it has
be
a
creature.
planeswalker. Also, tiny leaders, your entire deck has to be 3 CMC or less. That's it.
Excuse me, sir. It's mana value.
Also, isn't it like a 50 card deck as well? Is
No,
that
I think
correct?
it's still 100, but
I believe
For
it's
tiny leaders,
still-
no.
is
It's
oh, it's 50 cards. My bad.
it's
And
50
25
or
life.
60.
It's
Yeah.
50.
It's also meant to be a 1v1 format for the most part, if I remember correctly.
That
But
makes sense.
Why did that format die again? I don't know anything about it.
did you ever play it?
It's Edric, right? Edric was essentially just overpowering everything.
Nah, it wasn't like Edric specifically was a problem.
Oh, that's an interesting rule. Each
Oh, yeah,
player's starting
Leovold
hand size is 8 minus the number of cards in their command zone. So if you have 7 for regular commander and 6 for partners.
I didn't
you're
really
starting
even
hand
have
size.
that.
That's
very
really
much for
interesting.
partners.
It's actually interesting.
And no command
I
damage.
like that a lot.
That's a neat one. I like that.
That's actually an interesting rule 0 rule you could put in your play groups.
I'm
Thank
glad I
you,
looked it
Logan.
up
I'll
actually.
stop
Yeah,
that.
because that's really
Actually,
interesting.
yeah, like implementing that for regular commander, like that would actually be pretty interesting to look
But if you
at.
play no commander, you just have 8
I
cards.
kind of want to playtest that now with it.
Now, can we also include companions in that? So if you start with fundamentally an extra card in your hand,
If this was, if
Rule
this was
0.
modern, I would agree with you.
Wait.
If this is commander, no, the cost
Wait,
is
so
real.
with tiny leaders, did Lurrus just like break tiny leaders potentially?
Probably.
Dude, Tiny Leaders was long dead before Lurrus even mattered.
We don't talk about that part.
Sorry.
If tiny leaders were still around, would have Lurrus have warped the format?
Absolutely. It would be
Okay.
banned.
I mean, every week I play tiny leaders in cobblestone basement over piles of cash. So
Mhm.
it's very underground, very black
So
market.
is Lurrus making an
Uh,
appearance there, or is that like house band?
We actually just shoot anybody who plays Luris. So
do you also shoot people that play Lutri in it as well? Or
yes,
So companions are effectively
Straight to jail.
banned by death.
straight to jail. Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
you might have to bleep shoot because of TOS, but
I don't think that's an issue. Hopefully not. We'll see if we get this taken down.
okay. Let's see.
So we talked about like the cool things about Rule 0 so far, but just like with everything, there's kind of a gray area. I expressed a lot of concern for like the custom cards being kind of an issue. But with a lot of play groups, we mentioned Thassa's Oracle quite a bit. As a group, we've kind of said, hey, we don't want to play Thassa's Oracle. So custom ban lists and like self-regulating. A lot of people don't think of it as like a Rule 0 conversation. But like soft banning these things is a Rule 0 conversation in itself.
Yeah, I think this is kind of the difference between established play groups and like your random pickup groups at LGS who like people you haven't been playing with. Of course, you could have the established play group within the LGS, but like, kind of just randoms you're
Mhm.
playing with, right?
Yeah, I will say specifically at my LGS, we've all like basically everybody that plays there, we sat down and all agreed no demonic consultation, Thassa's Oracle in the same deck. That's
When did that happen?
stuff like
Because
that.
last time I was up there, there
Um,
was the Tasker players still having Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation, just no fast mana.
That happened within the past couple weeks because we just got tired
Gotcha.
of it.
But also, your commander events
Fair
are at the LGS, if I remember correctly. Those are just there's a one prize pack, but it's mostly just to show up. You get a prize.
It's just to have fun more
Yeah,
than anything.
There's just a prize. Everyone gets a participation pack, and the winner of the pod gets a prize pack. So it's not really a big prize.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, if you're
nothing.
spiking for one pack, then I think you have
Like,
other problems.
I think it's at most $5 of store credit, which
Mhm.
I mean, it's really nothing if you think about it.
Yeah. Talking about the custom ban list, Mana Crypt is a card that often comes up in people's
Mhm.
soft ban lists. You've got advocates like me who believe it should be a hard ban card, not a soft ban. But also, like in content creation in particular, so many people soft ban Mana Crypt.
We kind of have. It's been a back and forth conversation. I want to play my card because I own it, but I haven't since I've got it because it's just there's been so much debate and honestly the internal politics in our group we can't come to a conclusion. Like Mox Diamond, Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, those three, it's really hard to say. Yeah, these are fine for some people.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for like a year.
Yeah,
like
and it still comes up.
it does. Yeah, there's kind of the thing like some groups, which I would say you should proxy absolutely. But some groups are like, oh, well, this person owns this card, but I don't own this card, so now I'm essentially priced out of the format. Because I don't have the fast mana you have,
Yep.
so we're playing completely different levels of Magic at this point. Which is kind of where that conversation comes in. Of course, there's gonna be people who say like Ethan, like I bought the card, I want to play it. Not that I'm saying you're like an asshole who's going to play the card.
I
Anyway.
have no qualms if you proxy in our group, like.
Yeah,
that's fine at this
yeah.
point. Like, I don't really care. I personally wanted the card because I wanted to have a non-proxy cEDH deck. That's just like what I wanted. I want a Croker Sakashima unproxied. It was the last card I got. I'm very thankful I got the trade of Mox Diamond off of you when you quit Legacy. Thank you again.
Woo!
So like I have this, and it's like, okay, so now I have not played cEDH since I got it at all, and it sits in a binder looking really pretty, and I want to pull it
I haven't
out.
played Crick so long. We need to play some cEDH.
We'll get back around to it. Put it on our task list per se. But just like
as soon as Winota stops being in the naughty corner, we can play cEDH, Logan.
Well, nothing's in the naughty corner in cEDH. It's cEDH.
In my home, Winota's in the naughty corner. It's caused people to cry too many times.
Okay, well,
I think it's proven its point that that deck is really strong even for cEDH.
Logan, you weren't there at that recording session where we played a 3-hour cEDH game where we just gave up. Did anyone win, Matt?
No, we all collectively agreed to just concede at the same time.
We actually could not finish that game. I was going last.
Beautiful.
I was going last on Croker Sakashima. Matt was going first on Winota. I rolled into 4 after 2 no-land hands and then an all-lander, and I kept like a land, a Shadow Skull Smashing, another card, and Mental Misstep. Matt goes turn 1 Soul Ring. I Mental Misstep it because I'm last in the turn order. No one has interaction. And so he kept a 2-lander, can't cast any spells. I'm at 3 at this point. I can't cast any spells. And the other 2 guys have no clear direction on what they're doing. So we sit there for hours doing nothing.
So we have to play it at my place because it's in the naughty corner at Ethan's place. Got it.
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
If you bring me cookies, I'll allow it to come out of the naughty corner.
What if it's just cookie vodka? Is that better?
Sure. That's fine.
Absolutely.
So another potential like soft ban list. I've joked about quite a bit so far on the podcast of 2 episodes and 2.5 at this point. Tutors are cringe. I don't
My
like.
lord will hear from you. You don't know.
I personally, I feel like I talked about this on the podcast last time, if I remember correctly. I think tutors don't really add a whole lot to the format, like just as a general like building point. Like if you want to find your cards, run more card draw, it's a singleton format. By running a tutor, you go against the absolute spirit of a singleton format. But I also have to concede if I have a demonic tutor and I want to play that sometimes. If someone has an Imperial Seal, I don't want you to sit with your Imperial Seal and never cast it and like never get to play it in the game.
Yeah. Unironically, I only really run like 1 tutor index now, which is my demonic tutor, and I'm probably never going to run more than 2 outside of cEDH anyway. In which they'll probably be like my vampiric tutor. So, but yeah, I agree that you shouldn't just load your deck down with tutors because that's boring and casual. I mean, if you're in cEDH, play as many fucking tutors as you want. But yeah, no, I think tutors are cringe after a certain point, but play your tutors.
Before I started powering down my Brea deck, it had 9 tutors in it.
Oh god,
that sounds about what I used to have.
That's too much.
Yeah, it's like,
were you running?
It's just not fun.
Fabricate, Reshape, Word of Invention. I'm assuming demonic, vampiric, enlightened tutor. That's 6. I'm assuming those 6. What else did you have?
So you might not be thinking of these as tutors. One, Inventor's Fair.
Okay, I'll count that.
Tutor, yeah.
All right. Treasure Mage and Trinket Mage.
Oh yeah, yep, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
Those are
Trinket
tutors.
Mage for artifact lands is so good. I love it.
Yeah. And then
Yeah, I think-
Limdol's Vault.
That one
Yep.
is a tutor.
Yeah.
I don't think of that card as a I don't think of that as like a stack my deck, I'm strategic planning nonsense or whatever. Or
You're going to
whatever
find
the
your
card that
combo
actually-
piece and you're putting it on top.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a vampiric tutor. It's just a 2-mana vampiric tutor.
Yeah, I think my my original Mogus deck had like 5 tutors in it because it had like what Scheming Symmetry, Vampiric, Wishclaw, Demonic, and I think Grim Tutor. Yeah,
If you're going
And
to
I was
run,
like-
if you're going to run tutors, what do you like seeing? Like, this is our personal opinion. What tutors
Oh.
are we okay more so seeing?
Scheming
I'm-
Symmetry is like the perfect tutor for Commander because it's politics, like it's politics card. Like,
Mhm.
and also if you can play a Stranglehold in conjunction with it, that's just way better. It's hilarious. Yeah, sure, you can go tutor.
Banned.
Never mind.
Banned.
But no, I think that's like the perfect like casual power tutor.
I
yeah.
like seeing Wishclaw Talisman a lot in casual spaces
I like that
because
as
you
well.
just can pass it around the table, and it's like everybody gets a tutor at that point, and it's really not that big a deal because everybody's just going to go find what they need at that point.
Yeah.
So,
And also, yeah, like in cEDH, a Wishclaw Talisman's extremely terrifying to see because they can just tutor out what they need, and you're probably not going to get to untap with it if somebody tutors with a Wishclaw Talisman.
Yep.
But yeah, in casual, you're probably going to get to untap with it unless they're like, yeah, I'm going to go tutor out my Vandal Blast.
I've done that line a
Excellent.
little too much.
I think
Excellent
I've
use.
done that before too.
You
I've
have.
also done that line.
So, Jason, are you still in their opinion? Like, if you have like just 0 tutors completely in that sense? I know you said 0, but it kind of got overshadowed by everyone else talking loud a second ago.
Oh, I didn't say 0. I said narrow.
Narrow. Yeah,
Mhm.
Logan and I were just talking too loud for me. Ugh.
I look, I don't hate tutors because I do find them to be quite useful, particularly when you build around a card that's not your commander.
Mhm.
Like, you absolutely need tutors in that situation. It's really hard to build around something that is not your commander.
Ethan needs to tutor out his Risen Reef. Yeah.
Well, not even that one. When Jason and I worked on the Rionia deck that was on the channel a few weeks ago, that was a Secret Commander Harmonic Prodigy deck. That's the only reason I considered running Gamble in that deck. Is like, okay, I want to find it. It's the only reason I ran Imperial Recruiter. So I wanted to find
seeing-
my Harmonic Prodigy so I can make multiple Harmonic Prodigies and then swing in for lethal. That's the only
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Were you playing the triple gamble card?
I was not playing Fervent Mastery. I didn't want to go too
Oh.
deep on it, but it was a strong consideration.
Like, narrow tutors, like, I don't want to spoil too much, but for the guys here, I've been trying to convince them to play with 8 decks that I have randomly built, and they have no idea what's in the decks.
Mhm.
It's on the list.
A couple of them have a high number of tutors, but the tutors are extremely narrow because they're trying to build around a specific card that isn't the commander. So, like, my blue decks, almost every single one of them has Drift of Phantasms in it because it's
Mm.
looking for a very specific card and is not able to tutor for much of anything else.
Oh, so like transmute cards?
I like transmute cards a lot. Like, Muddle the Mixture is a perfectly fine card in my opinion.
Yeah, or like Demir House card or whichever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Shred
Yeah.
Memory. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, transmute.
Yeah.
Transmute in general is the type of thing I like seeing out of tutors.
I didn't even think about those. Yeah, those are actually pretty cool tutors too, because they are narrow.
Yeah, and even some of the ones that are a little more generally powerful, like, I don't love Worldly Tutor, but I do like the idea of creature tutors as being a slightly more limited tutor option. Particularly the one that I do like a lot is Fabricate. Fabricate is 3 mana for a tutor effect, and it's only an artifact that's wide enough when you build around it that it's pretty strong, but narrow enough that you really have to put in the effort to make that card like shine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or like Eldamri's Call. Like that's another pretty narrow one.
I was gonna say the only downside to this is when you do that, you're often building towards a combo then.
True,
Uh,
true.
Which I guess you could also say combos are cringe, but that would make Ethan sad.
No, okay. That's a whole episode because my deck building identity is really challenged as of late, and I'm having issues reconciling. I like combos. I like my janky Rube Goldberg machines, which I have. I'm going to mention again later in this episode how much I love my Rube Goldberg machines.
You
But
do.
it doesn't promote the most fun gameplay because I take a 20-minute turn where I do a bunch of random shit, but then everyone else is watching me do a bunch of random shit, and it's just like again I mentioned
was
earlier,
gonna say,
people just watch and they don't do anything.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say kill the part of you that cringes, but I agree with your statement there. So
So we, in our play group, just for more context, we now have these things called Cameron turns and Ethan turns.
Yeah.
So
we
Cameron
do.
turns are just sitting there a lot, contemplating how to actually play out the turn. Ethan turns are sitting there watching him do everything in his combo Rube Goldberg machine,
yes,
and then somehow winning.
yes. Cameron lives in the tank. Ethan lives in Balls' Citadel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Ethan truly lives in Paradox Engine, but that's not allowed anymore.
You didn't have to
No,
remind
bad.
me.
That
Wait,
card
man.
should absolutely be banned, but I love it.
Let me
so
go throw on some
much.
Nickelback real quick and how you remind me. Moving on from the
Man.
sadness.
But I do want to bring up Paradox Engine because of the concept of doing things like banned as commander or bringing unbanning certain cards as like that's a big gray area for Rule Zero.
Yeah, like I think Turgrid is a recent offender of people like this should be banned as commander, but it's
Mhm.
probably fine in the 99.
Yeah.
An older one, which is similar to Turgrid, is Braids Cabal. Was it Cabal Minion or
Mhm.
Cabal?
Yeah,
Cabal
Cabal
Minion.
Minion.
Yeah, the black Braids. That's a one that was kind of a talking point back in the day.
My big spicy take on unbanning and banned as commander stuff. Uh, I like banned as commander. I think it's not that unreasonable for people to have like a slightly separate ban list to look at. It's pretty easy to look up. My big one is Leovold. As a commander, fuck that card.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Fuck Leovold as a commander. Like, if you try to build around the can't draw effect, you just get that Teferi's puzzle box going, or you just windfall people. I don't care. That's just a miserable play experience. But in the 99 of a Soul Tide deck, or 5-color value deck, control deck, whatever, I don't see much problem with Leovold.
I mean, at that point, he's basically just a Notion Thief or a Narset.
Mhm.
Right?
Just with more toughness than an Ocean Thief.
Yeah.
I view it as less offensive Hole Breacher.
I can see that. Because it just
Yeah.
it doesn't you don't draw off of it, it just prevents the draw. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, so like
Yeah,
it's less offensive than an Ocean Thief for Hull Breacher in that scenario, and it's 3 colors, like restrictive mana cost. The targeting thing kinda is
Yeah, the draw advantage from that is the part that I always kind of get at. Like, it's a little much, but
I mean, in the 99, that doesn't bother me that much.
yeah, it's a card that like I feel like people, if we had banned as commander, I feel like Leovold at least should be in the consideration for just banned as commander. I
Mhm.
do understand that this is like hot take. Some people are gonna like fucking hate this opinion.
I also think another card along these similar lines that like is perfectly fine in the 99, but is Arayo. I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
I don't
Araya
even
Slayer
want to.
Tommy Ascended.
Yeah, there you go. That card, honestly, so long as it's not in your command zone, is perfectly fine because
Absolutely.
it's just another control piece for the control player and commander at that point.
Yeah, I've played against that card as commander, I think 4 times. In 2 or 3 of those games, we were locked out on turn 1.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's a 2-drop,
Yeah,
right?
It
because
is.
it is a 2-drop. So you just play your 0 mana artifacts, your soul rings, right? You get
Oh, and that
focus
gets
on
worse
them.
with Jeweled Lotus as well.
Yeah. So it was very, very easy to set up Arayo to be active on turn 1, and then from there you just dirtle to victory.
Your opponents can't do
Like,
anything
yeah, I mean-
hardly.
Yeah, you literally don't do anything because your opponents can't do anything.
Fun, interactive gameplay, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely
Woo!
not.
But
fun for anyone.
I am somewhat willing to concede that point that it would not be as busted, obviously. But it still would lead to some games that just shouldn't be played, right? Like the
Mhm.
idea of
Yeah,
like sitting there
yeah.
not doing anything, like that's not fun gameplay for everybody. That's why Stacks is so divisive. That's why EDH Rec has the salt meter and a lot of
Yeah.
Stacks cards are on there because they just lead to a lot of unfun gameplay scenarios.
Arayo would be
Also-
pretty high up there.
But if it got unbanned, you could rule zero it out.
You could.
You
yeah.
could. How do y'all feel about sideboards and wishboards in Commander?
I kind of just hate the concept for Commander. It just doesn't feel right.
I think if you're going to silver border in Spike or Rule Zero in Spike, then that one is acceptable because it's kind of the whole point of the card. Other than that, probably not.
Ethan, one time Ulamog spawn sired from his
No, that was Chandler's deck.
trade.
That was Chandler's deck. Back.
Okay, but you did it.
Well, it was his deck, and we didn't know the rules, so
Correct, but you were the one who performed the action.
sure. I guess I did. Am I the one that's like more okay with it, like a limited sense? Like,
My thing about them is, so one, I don't fully see why like we should permit necessarily one player or a whole bunch of players to come to a game with functionally a specific tutor board, because let's be real, that's the whole point of these things, is to make tutors.
yeah, Burning Wish, Wish from AFR, stuff like that.
Yeah, and now you're no longer playing a 100-card deck, which
Yeah.
is already kind of my issue with how companions interact with Commander.
But Yu-Gi-Oh does it, right?
Yeah,
I don't even know, man.
Jason, why are they gonna get it? Why are they gonna get Jason? Say it again. Fuck Yu-Gi-Oh, right? No.
I mean, sure, fuck Yu-Gi-Oh. I know they have like their pendulum summons or whatever these.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the kids are doing anymore. I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh boomer. I played
I
back
can't
in the
remember the
day.
names of these things. Yeah,
Let's
no,
just,
like the last time I
let's
played
just not
Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm
talk
pretty
about
sure it
it.
was like 2005, man.
We did get really off topic though from the sideboard wish boards outside the game.
Yeah, where were we? Oh yeah, Wishboards.
I was trying to defend it and I really can't. I just like the idea of spawn side of Ulamog getting all the shenanigans.
Yeah.
I just
like
want that.
Sponsor Ulamog. Specifically that one, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll
Yeah, if you wanna
allow that no
pay-
contest.
if
As
you wanna
long as
pay
you're not getting an
booze of
Emrakul
mana.
the Aeon Storm, I'm fine
Yeah.
with it.
Like I said, I'm still okay with Spike being in there if you're going to already let silver borders be in your commander game. Spike
sure.
getting its own wish board, it's just cool.
Spike Tournament Grinder, though, is a card I'm always a little concerned on because of just how easy it is to win with it. But
True.
Hey, so we're talking about how to rule zero cards in and abilities into your games. Whoa,
yeah.
rule zero combos.
Oh wait, did we want to talk about the like removing commander damage, changing life total type of thing?
Oh yeah, of course.
these are some ones I get some pretty spicy opinions on as well. Like, I am a firm believer in commander damage should
Me
stay
too.
in the format.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Or else
so
life
what's
gain just
commander
overtakes
damage,
everything.
guys?
Wait, Matt, go ahead.
I said, what's commander damage, guys? I'm pretty certain the last, I don't know, 30 games of commander I've played, it's only been combo wins, and that's
Matt,
about it.
You
Commander
combat damage
has not-
yesterday.
Did I kill you with combat damage with Brina?
No,
Who did I kill with combat damage again?
no,
I
I'm talking commander damage, not combat damage.
Well, specifically commander damage from Brina. It was
commander
exactly
Was it-
21 commander damage
Was
with
it
Brina.
Cameron?
You killed.
I
Chandler
think commander
with it.
damage.
I killed
recently.
Chandler with it. Yeah.
I think Cameron commander damaged me out of a game recently.
Yeah.
Well, he's
Oh, no,
Zergo'd
there is
you.
one video. Was it Zur? Or not Zur, but
I don't think
Zergo.
did we ever post a Zergo video?
Oh
No,
well,
think it's
even if
ever
we didn't
posted.
post it, like that recording where I got turned forward by Zergo out of the game
Mm.
with commander damage.
I like
Yeah.
commander damage though. Like, it creates a threat dynamic as well, like an unseen element to the game that's very important.
Yeah, I think things that are have more combat focused commanders, it like allows them to actually subsist in a format instead of everything just being life gain.
No, I more so meant it as a joke because in
Yeah.
a lot of games, commander damage is just kind of irrelevant.
Yeah,
exactly.
A lot
Yeah.
of people don't care
Certain-
to build around it. It's just
In the certain decks where it works, it's really fun to just like, hey, I beat you for 21 damage with this creature, and you're
Mhm.
dead now.
Yeah.
On the flip side of things, though, changing starting life totals in Commander is actually something I wouldn't be, like, as a permanent change, I wouldn't mind seeing.
Would you want to go higher or lower?
I think you need to go down to 30 life.
Yeah, 30 was as far as I would go.
I don't know. 40 feels right to me, but I don't know. I haven't thought about it enough to really
Well,
make an opinion.
Current design on Commander, right, is very centered around the idea of there being 40 life, so that's part of the reason for it. But the ability to, like, power down cards like Necropotence, Necropotence, however you'd like to pronounce it, I'll be real. I like Necropotence because it's
Necropolis?
Necropolis, not Necropolis. So,
Yeah. But also like the best card, Necrologia. Obviously, like you have less life to pay into that, or the actual best 5-mana black draw spell, Stinging Study. And if you're taking 8 damage off of that,
Ethan,
like,
I'm going to fucking cancel you.
No, you don't understand. We have to nerf Stinging Study. We have to nerf it.
Okay, so we're going down to 21 life. That way, commander damage is equal to your life total.
No, it's just the only
Fire
way to kill
Covenant?
someone is commander damage, obviously.
I like
Fire
it.
Covenant.
Oh yeah,
We have to nerf Toxic Deluge.
Nerf Dr. Deluge and Fire Covenant. Yeah, that's what we need to do.
That's what we truly need in this format is Toxic Deluge to basically not be a card that's playable. Yep.
Yeah, we should probably keep that card in the format because I own one.
It's a good card. I have no qualms with that card. Paying life to get rid of creatures, I think, is a fair trade.
Yeah, pretty much. Funny thing though, if you change life totals, my opinion on commander damage changes a bit though.
Actually, yeah.
It becomes a lot less necessary.
I think you have to proportionally scale it to the life total.
See, I wouldn't want to do something like
Yeah.
say, oh, now it's only 15 commander damage because that becomes really easy to do.
No, but you need to make it like
Yeah.
a little bit higher the lower you go, so that way it's still kind of a threat. I don't know. It's
it's
Well,
weird.
to bring it back to tiny leaders for a small moment.
No, stop.
Their rules had no commander damage as a thing,
Yeah.
and then they start with 25 life. I just wanted to say that.
That seems more, but also
Yeah.
it's a one-on-one format compared to a multiplayer format. So like,
That's a fair point.
it's a little bit different
Yeah.
there.
There's 2 variants of dual commander as well.
Oh yeah, dual
Yeah.
commander.
isn't that like Brawl's rule set as well for 1v1s? There's
I think
25
Brawl's like
life.
20 life, isn't it?
No, they're
30, I
30.
believe.
They start 30. I feel
it?
like.
30. Okay, but I know there's no commander damage in it.
I know 1v1 commander on Moto has 30 life.
Yep.
Has a starting life total.
Okay.
I think dual, like the official paper dual commander, which the predecessor to the one that's on Moto, I think they initially were at 25, and I think they're currently at 20 as starting life total. I don't remember.
Huh. That's interesting.
I don't know. We're not
Aggro decks
knowledgeable
are actually
enough.
quite good in that format.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of aggro decks in that format then. So now that we've kind of had many Rule Zero conversations throughout this entire last section, let's talk about Rule Zero conversations. Kind of before and after the conversations, and like kind of how to structure them, maybe, or the benefits of them. So there was this one tweet by Rachel Weeks. I forget what her podcast is. She's got a podcast. It's not Commander Sphere, is it? I
I
don't
can
know.
probably look
Oh,
at her
but
Twitter
she's on the
profile.
CAG, right?
She is on the CAG. I'm fairly sure
I
she's on the
think
CAG. She's on
For,
the
those,
CAG.
for viewers at home, CAG is Commander Advisory Group. They're not the rules committee, but they're a group of content creators and commander players who offer their inputs directly to the rules committee.
She is on the CAG, and she's the co-host of Command Spear.
I was
Yeah,
right.
so
I listened to like one episode. She was fine. I didn't. I just
essentially
never got
the
around
CAG
podcast.
essentially the CAG is just the more influential content creators that basically kind of warp Commander, like the Command Zone and people like that, and they give their opinions because that's what they kind of tell their viewers, and a lot of people tend to follow them. So
Yeah, Olivia Gobert
Yeah.
Hicks is on the CAG as well.
We can talk about content creation and its effect on the format, but that's something for like a whole episode, honestly.
I'm not sure I necessarily agree with Matt's statement fully there, but that's a whole. That's something we gotta delve into more. I don't think we have the time for that today.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
There's other things to
that's a
talk
hot
about.
take
Like
right
I
there.
believe, I don't know if it's like officially named this, but I believe it's like the Josh Lee Kwai effect, where it's like the decks that he plays on
there is
game
the
nights
Josh
end
Lee
up causing
Kwai
spikes
effect.
in cards.
There is also the Professor effect.
And there's also the Saffron Olive effect. That's another
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, huge content creators are able to influence market prices in some ways.
I do.
But we
want
can talk
to,
about that for another.
I want to my own horn for a second. I feel like I had a small help with boosting Audric Bloodcurse decks on the EDH Rec stats. I feel like I got a small effect on that. I want to take my pride here.
That wasn't the one where there was another like a podcast where I talked about it, right? No, that was Skyclave Relic, I think. There was another one you thought you had effect on, but it was like in an MTG Goldfish podcast or something like that.
I don't know about that. I just feel like Audric was so talked down, and then people were talking about Audric the weekend after the video went up. So I'm like, yes.
Yeah, like
I mean, maybe that had a lot of views on that video.
I don't know if it's true, but if it is, I'm proud of you.
Good job.
Dad?
Take this W here.
Are you winning some?
W plus ratio.
Right.
Woo.
But onto the Rachel Weeks tweet.
Back to that.
guess
The
what we were
actual
talking
thing we were talking about.
Yes. Yes.
All
So,
right.
casual pregame conversations. Question 1. What turn can your deck consistently try to win? Question 2. Number of fast mana. Question 3. Number of tutors. Question 4. Number of free interaction spells. Number 5. Number of game-ending combos with 3 or fewer cards. Then after that, swap decks around if needed. And then it's a general Rule Zero conversation of anything against the rules and what's cool.
I see that. That seems pretty good to me. Just how I build my decks or want to build my decks. There's a few questions where I would just come up with 0, or low numbers, in the tutors. But I feel those are all really good questions to ask in the scenarios. Matt, do you kind of do it like whenever you go to your LGS on Friday nights for FNM? Is there really much of that conversation happening or anything like that, or is it just kind of, hey, what are you playing? Cool, we'll just switch around.
So we actually have this conversation pretty well every game before any of that, whether it be the Friday night event or the Saturday event I attend. This typically happens before every game, and I've definitely swapped decks after question 5, sometimes even question 6. Like, it's something that you kind of have to talk about, stuff like that. You really want to set where everybody can have the most fun, and having the most fun usually means having about the same power level of deck.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want anybody to be pub stomping with their decks because that means one person's going to have fun and the other 3 are not.
Mm-hmm.
But I know the meme of Magic is there's a finite amount of fun in Magic, and I want to have all of it.
Oh yeah, the zero sum game.
Logan's life motto.
Sometimes I play zero sum decks. Yeah. So what about it?
8-rack, Mogus. He played Turgid for a video. Tiny Bones. May I go on?
8-rack was a 60 card deck, competitive format deck. So that one doesn't really count. So, but in EDH, yeah, I played Turgid, but mostly because you guys were like, yeah, that's absolutely you should play Turgid.
I mean, I played a zombie Lady of Scrolls, just mono blue, saying no to everything and then drawing cards.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this conversation was really good. I think so I think like the RC's ban list is good as a like kind of framework to work on, like to make Rule Zero's conversations easier. And then this is like a guideline for how to have those Rule Zero's conversation from a member of the CAG, it turns out. Yeah. So I think I think this is like a good thing to sit down with new people and talk about. Just make sure I think everybody's on the same page of what fast mana means, because that kind of varies. Like I think we're all pretty much on the same page, but like some people might consider certain things not fast mana or to be fast mana.
One thing I do want to clarify though is when talking about combos, I again build Rube Goldberg machines, right? I do a lot of like I for the Hinata deck I played for the Kamigawa stuff that a video should be up at this point. For that, it was an eggs deck, and that means the entire deck's essentially built around a combo. So it's not one card combo; it's a 60 card combo that ends up in a death with the 8th Flux Reservoir, Crackle Power. So that would still fall into the combo category, but that style deck doesn't really fit into this framework. And I'm not sure if it's just a don't play that deck in that scenario, because again, the whole Ethan turn kind of thing, it's hard to play those in a non-solidified play group, I feel like, or else you just feel like an asshole. Personally.
Yeah, I think that kind of puts you back to question 1 with that, like what turn can your deck consistently win? With a and like you put like a 1A, like how? Like you're like you would say this is a storm deck. Technically, the combo involves 60 cards, but I'm winning with 8th Flux Reservoir plus my commander doing stupid shit, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's just like my Mizzix deck that God, I will never force you guys to sit in me playing a game for 40 minutes to try and win in one turn. I feel so bad anytime I play that deck, but it's really fun and cool.
I've done the same exact thing. I've done Melik decks. I've done Vadric decks. I did a Mizzix deck at one point. I've done a lot of shenanigans with Brea combos. Again, our second video on the channel is just a 15-minute Brea combo we solidified or shortened down to 3 minutes because I didn't have top in there, so I couldn't infinitely win.
I think it also like a combo I've played, Mind Crank plus Blood Chief Ascension. That's a 2-card combo, but it takes at minimum 3 turns to set up. So that's kind of also a sub. Like, what exactly is that combo? I think somebody made a mention in notes, but like also specifying what that combo is.
Mhm.
It's kind of important. Because like I said, yeah, if it's something that takes some time to set up and people can interact with, like a Mind Crank combo, then that makes it a lot easier to be like, okay, that's acceptable as opposed to, Citadel top Aetherflux Reservoir, right?
So, how do you guys feel about the Kiki combo lines that tend to happen? And that because
They're not that bad.
They don't bother me.
They're something when you're aware of them, they can be threatened, so you kind of need to like look out for the combo piece. But the cool thing about Kiki decks, at least, is unless there is I might get the name of this wrong. I believe it's Tooth and Nail Entwined involved here. You usually get to see both cards coming,
Yeah.
so I feel a little bit better about it. It's easy enough to interact with.
And also, Kiki's got such a restricted mana cost; it's not easy to get out.
Yeah, it's hard to put that in like a 3-color deck, for example. It's just hard to get to triple red.
You can play in a Blood Pod, though.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, but you also don't always cast it.
This is true.
One thing I wanted to say on these, like, generally, I think these questions are pretty good. Yeah, I have small critiques of it as well. I do love that they're bringing up the number of free interaction spells, for example, and my general hatred of free spells.
We talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Or last episode, I guess.
I think that's really important, though, to bring up, like, is there a Fierce Guardianship in your deck? Do I really need to be playing around free interaction in my casual game, for example? But one of the things I love the most is that first question of what turn can your deck consistently try to win? Not necessarily is it winning, but is it trying to win on that turn is a great question. This harkens back to the tabletop gaming club days where the club had a soft ban on any win before turn 7, which I know for a lot of people that sounds like Jesus Christ, you're ending the game on turn 7. That's so quick. Also keep in mind 7-player Commander games.
Commander turns are significantly longer.
Yeah.
Also keep in mind this was back in the Magic Boomer days that me and Jason played in, where like turn 7 was when you would normally be winning a Commander game, not like it is now where it's kind of been fastened.
Like the high power Commander decks, like I mean, a lot of the Commander decks I was scared of were like Narset and Lighten Master, who functionally on their turn 5 they're winning, kind of thing. They'll actively kill you on their turn 20, but that doesn't matter. You didn't take a 4th turn, right? So
yeah. But I think
I was more so just saying like the speed of Commander back then was a lot slower than it is now. Even though
it's clunkier.
Yeah, because it just wasn't as consistent.
Yeah, I think
there's also less information.
I think the question number 1 is also a great question because it kind of replaces the what power level is your deck? Because everybody says 7, but that doesn't mean anything. The 1 to 10 scale means nothing now because effectively the scale should really be 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4. This really replaces the conversation because it's like, okay, I know when you're trying to win. I'm trying to win like 7 turns after you are. We probably shouldn't be in the same pod.
Like, I so appreciate you bringing that point up specifically because power, in my opinion, power levels it's so nebulous. Like it's so hard to get an actual definition on this. And I tested that with our play group just to see. I asked Matt, you remember when I asked you about what power level my Brina deck was at?
Oh yeah, I said it was like a
7.
If it was like a 6. No, I said a 6.
6 or 7, right? And I said like I view it as a 5, like a hard 5. And that's mostly just due to the power of the commander. And then if you go into the video where it was actually viewed on, I got like somebody who was, I assume, actively trying to help build the deck up a little bit, but they were like pointing out a lot of flaws in the deck design, which, no offense to that person, that was a pre-con deck that I just upgraded. I have no real intention of changing much from it. So
yeah,
I appreciate feedback, but
yeah, and anybody who's looked at a like self-reported study ever in any class ever will tell you people are fucking awful at self-reporting.
Yeah, self-reporting is really hard to fucking do.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
the professor at Tolarian Community College got Joe Johnson on for a video, formerly of I Hate Your Deck, currently of Tabletop Jocks. They have a video talking about how to do this whole conversation and doing this conversation from the perspective of what type of play experience do you want, not what's the power level of your deck.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated than just throwing a number out on the table, but the number has become so ineffectual that you kind of have to have that conversation.
Absolutely, and that's why I like these questions that Rachel posted, because these are way more in line with talking about the type of game you want, as opposed to the
nebulous
the nebulous number. Because also it's things like if other people were having big questions on this, immediate it's like, is this a stacks deck? Is this going to have Armageddon in it, for example? That's another Rule Zero conversation that people want to have all the time that these questions don't answer.
But
which I would argue those are more important questions.
And a lot of those questions, you can talk about cards in your deck, but you might leave one out. Having a deck list with you is pretty helpful, but also who wants to print out a deck list? I mentioned that, I think, last week or last podcast episode, and then Moxfield did something baller as hell, because I love that site. They started doing QR codes.
That's great.
Logan, you sent it to me. I think I saw it on my own, but you sent it to me like a few days after the podcast
Yes,
episode.
a tweet from, and I'll say who it's from. So Moxfield has a feature now where every deck list you have generates its own unique QR code. And somebody on Twitter who goes by Deathrite Ramen, great Twitter handle by the way, tweeted about that you can actually print them out as stickers, like with a little thermal printer, which I looked them up on Amazon. They're like they're like in the $30-$40 range, so I might actually buy one here in the near future. And you can print like little tiny stickers and you just put them right in your deck box, because you probably aren't going to remember exactly the number of fast mana you have, so you can just look it up right there, or somebody else can look at it. I think also Commander's format that really benefits from having an open deck list because of these Rule Zero conversations. Like, I don't think, like, people kind of know what's going on in Commander. You don't think you're gonna get anybody by having a closed deck list. So I think this is a really great feature and like something really cool you can do. Of course, not everybody's gonna be able to just go out and buy a $40 printer for stickers for their deck boxes.
But still, just like,
are you ready to bring a sheet of paper every time, like me?
I mean, you get
with our multitudes of Commander decks.
I mean, maybe like the QR code stuff is great. It's really helpful. It's just getting them there. Like, again, the whole idea of like, you don't want to print off a deck list, put it in your box. At least with having the QR code, if you just print that off, that's always consistent and updates when you update the deck list. So in summation, Moxfield, I love you so much.
Moxfield's great, yeah. And like, it's absolutely not a necessary thing to have this at all. It's just like a cool little thing you can do.
And it also helps with like, if you're willing to want to borrow a deck, they can look at your deck list, like updated in real time,
that too.
Like that.
Yeah, we talked about deck list. Did we talk about deck list borrowing last week? I think we did, or last episode.
Yeah, I think it was either the first episode or last week, or both. At this point,
yeah,
time has no meaning anymore.
Exactly. That makes that a lot easier too. Like, if a new player's at the table, somebody who, of course, they would probably need to understand Magic a little bit to just look at a deck list and understand what's going on. But somebody who's a little bit newer to Commander or has some knowledge of Magic, isn't kind of new to Magic, they can be like, look at these cards and be like, okay, I kind of see what's going on here, as opposed to you having to sit behind them and be like, yes, do this.
I just had the dumbest mental image.
Yeah.
Share with the class, please.
So this whole thing, Rule Zero conversation is functionally a conversation on consent within your game, right? Like, what you want to have happening, people all agreeing this is what we want to play against. Maybe I don't.
Pretty much.
I'm not a huge fan of stacks, but okay, I'll play against the Thalia this game. It's fine. So my mind just immediately jumped to those like 4-hand consent condoms.
Oh my God. Why was it that I was kind of already knowing where Jason was going with this? Is that to say how bad my mind is? Or...
I'm just thinking like 4-player consent deck box. The evil is in this deck box. We need 4 players to open this.
The dreaded Thassa's Oracle in our play group. We need all 4 players to rip open the deck box lid.
Just give me a Turbo Nas deck in there. Just rock Turbo Nas just sitting in the box.
It's like a lockbox in a bank where you have to have 4 keys to open the fucking box.
That's a good image. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
So with all of this, like talking about the decklist especially, like knowing what you're getting into, it's just the best to consent to it. Because if you don't know what you're playing against, you consent to a game, and there's a surprise, and there's like, I didn't want to play against that. I feel like I wasted my time. That just leads to negative gameplay, right? Like I feel like just knowing what you're getting into is what you want to enjoy your time. Time is a very precious thing. Time has no meaning anymore, as I stated 2 minutes ago. But time is a very precious thing to all of us. If you sit down for a Commander night, you waste 3 hours on a game, and you hated it, then that was most of your evening. You could have done a lot more beneficial things to your own personal growth in your life. And he's like, cool, I just wasted 3 hours where I sat against a stack deck and didn't do anything, or oh, I wasted my night playing against a combo deck that just I didn't do anything, or XYZ. So
Everybody likes to waste time, but they don't like to feel like they're wasting time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Philosopher Matt
that
here.
makes sense.
Philosopher Matt here.
All right, Mr. Philosopher, I got a question for you. In-game politics, is this a variant of a Rule Zero conversation? It's in certain extent.
I feel like it kind of is. But at the same time, a lot of this needs to be had before the game, like specifically of I hate mass land destruction, stuff like that. But
Logan,
why would you play Armageddon in your deck? God, that.
Yeah, I feel like you should have been like, yeah, I'm playing
regard.
Armageddon.
I'm playing the Decree of Annihilation in my Gavi deck, right? Like stuff like that.
But like things I've seen, like someone goes to cast a spell, and someone's like, I want to counter that, and they go, please don't counter my spell. I haven't gotten to play the game. Wouldn't that realistically be a little bit more of a Rule Zero conversation of, hey, don't counter people's spells or don't interact with people until they're at least kind of on the board as a framing of the game?
A little bit. It also might just be a threat assessment thing.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yes.
I've had a lot of games where like 4 pieces of interaction went my way and the combo player's just sitting there doing nothing. They're like, this is where this needs to go.
We can't fix player and threat assessment through Rule Zero. Part of it is you just gotta be a better player sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a little bit is Rule Zero. Like a Rule Zero thing is typically like everybody should get to do their thing, even if they don't win, right? And like that's kind of falls in line with the please don't counter my spell thing. But I think it's more largely like a threat assessment thing. Like the person who has 3 land and is trying to cast an explosive vegetation probably shouldn't get countered when somebody with 6 lands and is holding a combo piece. Probably should be.
Now I will say politics as in deals more feels like a Rule Zero inside of the game. Like, hey, I want you to do this with me to do X, Y, or Z thing, right? That more feels like a conversation that we're having on the fly about we need to do this during a game rather than it actually being threat assessment.
Yeah, reacting to specific actions that are going on. Usually not so much of a Rule Zero conversation, but also one of the ones that I see a fair bit is like someone plays a strip mine and someone just states, God, I hate strip mine.
Yeah, that's something that should have been said before the game.
That should have been said before the game. Or it's also just framing kind of the issue of don't strip mine me this game, I'll be mad.
Yeah, there's also that.
I've got some words to say about that in a little bit.
I feel like with strip mine though, like if you're just hitting it willy nilly, it's like, hey, someone played their first land, I'm just going to strip mine them. That's just poor play experience. One person.
That's salt inducing.
Yeah, it's salt inducing. What if it's like hey, I have a wild growth and a fertile ground on my land, and someone strip mines them? What do you think was going to happen? Right?
Yeah. Use your strip mine intelligently. Use it for Field of the Dead or a flipped whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, Itlamok.
Itlamok, yeah. Somebody flipped Itlamok. Yeah, don't use it to blow up somebody's bounce land on turn 2 because you just want to spite them.
So Rule Zero again does not fix play patterns. Rule Zero cannot just fix you being a bad player and just getting like people being bad players to
or
you,
being a jerk or whatever.
Rule -1, don't be a dick.
Pretty much.
That really is what Rule Zero really is.
Wait, Matt, what did you just say?
I said the strip mine on turn 2, unless it's Ethan's bounce land in his combo deck.
Hey,
now. It's perfectly fine.
But what if it's a Spajuka Bog?
Stop with the Bog Ethan shit. I swear to God.
Bog Ethan.
Yep. Unless,
That's part about this
unless
is I've
it's
never
like,
even actually like thrown a bog at Ethan's way. I'm
I
just
know you
beaming on him.
haven't.
If
I
I'm
know
playing-
Ethan was absolutely terrified yesterday when we were playing
Yep.
for Kamigawa because I had a Bajuka bog, and my actual option was win the game or bog Ethan for the meme. And I sat there and debated it for a second.
He actually
Oh,
considered bogging me for the meme.
Yes.
I mean, Ethan,
Did you
if
make the right
if I'm
choice?
playing a turn 1 Bajuka bog just because I need a black source, I'm always bogging you.
That's fine. If
Okay
I
with
have
that
2
one.
cards in my graveyard and there's 10 cards across the table in the graveyard and they're playing like a deck that can get shit back, then you bog me. That's where I start thinking, okay, this is for the meme and it's detracting from content and from
Yeah,
our
no,
game.
no. I will
So-
actually probably bog the other person, but yeah, no. Sometimes memes fun, but
Yeah.
If-
Well,
yeah,
Matt, when am I
I
getting those
will
42
totally
Bajuka
bog you.
bogs? When am I getting your 42 Bajuka bogs you got me for my birthday 3 months ago?
Whenever people actually want to come here and help me design them, like Jason, I need you to get here in Arkansas so you can help me design some custom Bajuka bogs.
You
for
just
Ethan.
doxed us, my man.
been doxed.
We've been
Oh,
doxed. Again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Ethan, you'll have to cut this out.
No, Jason already said he was in Alaska at one point. We're fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
we are in a state.
We are
I'm actually
in.
currently in Hawaii.
Oh shit! Really? Dude,
Yeah.
grad school in Hawaii. That's baller.
Yeah, it was a
mean,
pretty
well,
intense swim.
Yeah, we're all in a state of despair. Actually.
Oh wait, so there's not a highway from California to Hawaii?
No,
Oh
Yeah,
why would there
it's
be a
called-
highway?
because-
It's a
plane
subnautic
flight.
subway.
no,
Yeah,
no. I watched this one show, BoJack Horseman. They built a highway from Hollywood to or from California to Hawaii, and it was totally not just a 4-way highway, just jam packed the entire time.
Yeah.
I'll be
Watch
real. I haven't
BoJack
watched
Horseman.
BoJack Horseman, but God, I appreciate those memes.
You need
I
okay.
appreciate that joke a
Small,
lot.
a small soapbox. Please watch that show. It's
Uh-huh.
depressing as hell.
Yeah.
Please watch the show. It's so good. I just finished it last week and I'm still crying.
Is that from the memes or the depression?
Mostly the depression.
Yes.
That show is sad as fuck, man. It's so good, but oh shit, it's sad.
But yeah,
Post
as
game
soon as-
conversations, guys.
Back on
Post
track.
game
Oh, yeah.
conversations.
These are good ones.
Post game conversations, man, they're so underappreciated for Commander. Granted, they're also oftentimes a little bit of salt.
Yeah,
I've cast my fair share of salt in
we all
a
have.
Yep.
in a post game.
Cough,
But you know,
cough, Logan, cough, cough.
What?
I'm
Do?
No,
a little bit of salt's good.
a little bit of
little bit
salt's
of salt.
fine. I don't know why Matt's
Right.
calling out Logan. I wasn't salty after yesterday. Game 1, I didn't do anything.
No, I was more so meaning in the Turgrid, Mogus.
Oh
phase.
yeah,
Oh,
the salt's being thrown your way.
I was salty.
Gotcha.
I was
Yeah.
salty
You mean
people
Logan's
out.
very existence?
Yep, exactly.
Actually, the salt mines with me.
Your salt mountain you lay upon.
Next step, Toxrel.
Mm.
I thought about it.
Oh god, he's thought about it.
Oh god.
What's the bell? The Cormus bell? Yeah. Cormus bell plus Toxrel.
But real talk, like some of the best Rule Zero conversations actually come from post games
Mhm.
where people finally understand, like, oh, that's what I walked into. Okay, I don't want to walk into that anymore.
Yeah, there is an understanding because sometimes you just don't know until you've played against the deck.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, like the first Commander tournament I played in didn't run because I ran tournaments before I actually played in them. Like I walked face first into someone's Solvala deck that actually won on turn 5.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't a cEDH Solvala list, but it was just a good Solvala list. I didn't know that that's what I was walking into with my casual Scarab God control deck.
Also, like some people, if it's a newer deck that you haven't played a lot of, you will sometimes figure out, oh god, my deck does some really stupid shit. A la Ethan, who does that quite often.
Yeah.
Ethan, reminisce with me.
Yeah.
How many combos have you accidentally discovered in your Brea deck?
Oh
Yes.
god. Yeah, I'm assuming you have the same problem, don't you?
At least a dozen.
It just happens. You just oh wait, these cards just go together. What do you
With
do?
this 4 cards together, I make infinite sacks. And if I add this in, that's infinite draw.
And then it's win. And then with infinite draw, you find your infinite mana, and then you just infinitely kill and then gain infinite life. Whoa! It just
I know I've oopsed into him when I was playing like that tends to specifically happen that I found in artifact decks.
Mhm.
This tends to happen Like, artifacts just kind of do dumb things together that they probably shouldn't do, but end up doing.
They build a big dumb machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is why Ethan so often goes, "Oops, I found a combo."
And he's right. I do that. That's me.
Actual, like,
I feel like
thing I have heard during a recording is, oh god, I think this just,
Wins.
I just went infinite.
Yeah, that's happened at least twice. And it hurts to do that to me because I wasn't like had time. I don't anticipate that, and it happens. Like again, Ethan turns woo. I'm trying to keep infinite combos mostly out because I feel like a lot of viewers potentially might see infinite combos as, oh, there was a good game here, and then it got shafted by X thing. One of our videos we posted 2 weeks ago, I think, had a cyclonic rift that ended up winning the game essentially. And there's at least 2 comments like, oh yeah, cyclonic rift. Of course, cyclonic rift. And
that's
I
a
mean,
whole other Rule Zero conversation. Some
To
people
be
wanna talk
fair, I'm salty about that game because I got Heart of the Cards bullshitted out of that win.
You were on Adrix and Nev, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Over this, Cameron is Yami Yugi because he hearted the cards Ethan. He hearted cards you. He's gonna heart the cards somebody else here in the near future, probably.
And it's all been with Cyclonic Rift too. I swear that man needs to shuffle his deck.
No, the one against Ethan was Insurrection.
yeah,
Insurrection.
It was
Mob
mob
rule?
rule. It was mob rule.
Yes.
It was essentially insurrection. Because all my stuff was 4 power because of Horizon Shine on all my artifacts. Yeah,
I literally warned you before you killed me. He has things in his deck that will steal your creatures. Kill him first, and then he fucking did it off the top of his deck.
How am I supposed to know
real
you were a
today?
seer? How was I supposed to know you could tell the future?
Seriously, can we make a counter for how many times Cameron steals a game?
Okay, so 2 so far that we can remember.
There's probably more in the
There's
Also need a
more.
counter
I went
for
back and watched
the
a couple
amount
of
of
old
times-
episodes, like from I think like
Yeah.
the second or third episode. Cameron starts stealing games out of nowhere.
Well, he
Yep,
turned
he'll
3
do
Ob Nixilis unshackled me, so I'm gonna count that too. That was like
I
our
also have
third
a
video,
counter-
right?
He also turned 3 captivating audience to you one time.
Nice.
Was that on camera? I don't think it was on camera.
I don't think it was.
I was
It wasn't on
salty about it,
camera.
but that was that
No, that was off camera.
you symmetried him is what happened. He got dockside. I was playing
Oh, that's
Symmetry
right.
or Sephiroth. It was Sephiroth. And I had like Land Tax, Soul Ring, Felwar Stone. I think it was like my start. So I think I had a baller start. And then you
Where
went,
you're saying I'm an enabler.
yes, you are an enabler. How dare you?
Yes.
My addictions are
All right.
growing.
Wait, I
With
think
all-
Matt has something to say.
Oh yeah.
Well, I
go
was
for it.
gonna ask, can we get a counter for the amount of times Ethan wins with combo out of nowhere?
That's just all the
also- I
games.
feel like-
That's half the
I
videos.
feel
I'm
like
sorry.
that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just anyone that Ethan wins. That's how it's going.
Okay. I'm trying to fix that, guys.
Nah, stay perfect. You're beautiful.
Togoshima would have not won with combo. I was getting there. I was like 1 damage short.
All right, do we have any more to say on after game conversations or breakdowns?
I don't tend to have them, but that's also because I play most of my commander at events, and it really doesn't make sense there.
Yeah, I was gonna add like it's a really useful tool for like consistent groups, but if you're playing with randoms that you're not playing with very often, it's a little bit weaker. It's still good to have so you can understand personally what you want to see.
Mhm.
But as a group thing, it's not as useful for like LGS pickup groups. Unless you have like a consistent group, but that's a caveat, obviously.
I actually think it's really important to have these at LGS groups more often. Particularly so you can avoid certain situations. In Knoxville, there's a guy who attends the weekly stuff, and he's renowned for just playing non-interactive blue combo decks.
Yeah.
And because of that, just no one plays with him. He's been functionally ostracized from the LGS community.
There's a guy up here who plays in Traxa Super Friends deck that's also kind of but it's more because he's an asshole than anything.
Right,
For
yeah.
sure.
So bad behavior on players is one thing. That's a whole nother element of Rule 0 as well. It's just the rule -1 of don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
But yeah, like having those after game conversations with that guy, you may have a chance of amending some behavior or some gameplay loops and getting some options that they at least pulled their punches, maybe.
Mhm.
No.
I think these after game conversations are essential to Rule Zero functioning. Because with the most recent experience, like obviously there can be some salt and some rose-colored glasses looking through. Like, okay, this experience was really fresh, and you might be emotional about it because we care about this game a lot. Or I would assume most players do if they're spending X amount of money on decks and showing up to LGSs or playing with consistent play groups. And not to listen to this podcast even. Like you're an unfranchised player most likely. Make sure to try to take emotions out of it and take a step back and have a rational conversation. If you're angry, maybe put that post game conversation off for another 10 minutes so you can take a smoke break or something, come back and then have that conversation. If that was not enjoyable for me, I'm frustrated. Let me air that out.
It's just like our one cEDH game that went absolutely terribly. That I specifically remember nobody was like satisfied with it, and we were all very angry at the end of it.
We all were just like, okay, we're going home now. Was like the vibe we had.
We're going home now.
Like
And I think it took us going and getting like a good 30 minutes to an hour of just cooling off before we could talk about anything.
I mean, I went home. I went home actually. You guys went to Waffle House, I think. Getting some of that good food. I just went home. I was just so frustrated at that game and I was done. I knew I would need at least a day to cool off, which is fine. And we came back and talked about it, which is the important thing. So I think that pretty much wraps up our main conversation, our main topic. And now moving on to the other stuff, other topics. On one of our recent videos, our last podcast, we got a question from Justin Hocho. I'm butchering.
Hocho?
I'm butchering your last
Hocho?
name, and I already apologize. I apologize. So his exact question was: so how do you guys feel about land ramp in green and fetch lands? These are tutor effects, and we have a lot to say to that.
Yeah, actually, we
I
talked a
feel
little
like
bit
I
on
should
it. Really.
go not first.
You don't want to go first?
I can go first. I was just saying. I thought
I'll
you
go
guys.
You know what?
first, man. I
Matt,
love talking about this.
Matt goes first.
Got it.
All right. As for, let me just start off. Land ramp, specifically, green is kind of built around land ramp, as it turns out. So if you take it away and like cut down on the amount of it, it kind of feels like you're really not playing a deck designed for that color per se. Does that make sense?
I think so. I mean, there's so many green cards that say tutor out lands, ramp lands. It's inherently
Like,
in that color's identity.
Even when you start cutting down on that, it just kind of feels like you're basically not playing that color.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit more okay with land ramp. It's just if you are struggling with it, you need to either strip mine, wasteland, mass land destruction. I don't care, but you need to do something about it because realistically, I think that it's one of the more acceptable tutor effects. Same with fetch lands.
So I'll build on that. Fetch lands I don't have any issue with, other than the fact that they need to be reprinted more.
Preach.
Preach.
Yes. But as land ramp, as a concept, I don't particularly have an issue with it. But I think there needs to be more ways to play against it, because it's one of the most sanctimonious things in Commander is lands. Like you can't touch lands or people will get mad at you. And I think we need to peel back that layer of like sanctity around lands a little bit and allow more land destruction. So people don't jump out as far ahead. Or effectively, I want this to make it so people play different types of ramps so that it's more interactable. I would love to see more enchantment ramp, like Wild Growth, or more artifact ramp, or mana dorks. Mana dorks are really cool. I wish people would play more mana dorks. But like the strongest ramp you can do is land ramp because people don't interact with it because it's seen as like kind of a bad thing. Mass land destruction. I think you can play it if you're going to be if it's moving you towards a win. Just Armageddon ain't just because lol Armageddon is kind of shitty because you're gonna sit there for another hour just to still lose the game after you cast Armageddon.
Ooh,
Yeah.
call out there.
I mean, keep in mind, I'm also the player that plays Drawer of the Gitu and will just suspend Yalkle Hops and let you guys think about your impending doom for 4 turns.
Panic.
I have bid against that. That does not feel great.
Nope.
But yeah, and then I think Wizards need to just print more clean answers. Like confounding conundrums, like the only one really clean answer I can think of to land ramp. Because like people like you can see it, you can know you're going to play into it. Like there's that. Oppo agent I kind of talked about last episode how it kind of counters tutoring, but that's a table that's around the entire. That's an effect that's around the entire table that isn't super like directed at the one person who's like land wrapping or the one or two people even. And so that's not like super clean, but it's really the only other answer I can think of next to confounding conundrum that works. So
the one I think that's actually the best is Aven Mind Sensor, this criminally underplayed anti-tutor card.
Yeah, it's
Hell yeah.
Because if somebody builds their deck right, it's not really going to hurt them that much for land ramping. Because even in the top 4, unless you're just like flooded, you might find one, might not.
You got a pretty good chance, at least for using fetch lands. Yeah. It gets worse at the more colors you play, right? But the more fetch lands you play in your deck, and the more non-basics. But
it just really varies from deck to deck.
Yeah, and then to like conclude for me, it's like uninteractive Magic is not fun. Lands are things you can't in a social way interact with. So I think we need to peel back the social layer around it a little bit, and then Wizards needs to print more things that interact with lands or land destruction spells, and sets they're printing nowadays because it's just one of the strongest things you can do, Commander, if not the strongest, is land wrap.
See, it's gonna be. I'll explain this, but I think that's an overrated. I think land ramp is overrated. But first, I gotta say, I like tutors at high power, right? Tutors are one of the ways that you definitely power up your deck. People need to understand that with ramping, particularly with the multi-card ramping, like cultivates, Kodama's reaches, and migration paths, explosive vegetation, variant effects, you're getting multiple lands. That's card advantage out of your deck. That's another aspect of them. That's what makes them so powerful. But I've also find that I just don't like playing them that much, in particular fetch lands, in terms of a searching effect. When I'm powering up a deck, I'll play more fetches. But for example, my Brina deck currently, a 4-color deck, doesn't have a single fetch line in it. Yeah, because I've figured that was the best way to power down that deck was to hit its consistency.
Did you say Brina's a 4-color deck? Am I thinking the wrong card?
Oh, sorry, Brea.
Okay, I was a little confused there.
My Brina deck. Sorry. Now my Brina deck has like 2 fetch lines in it, and honestly, I should just remove them. They don't really serve much purpose. I don't need them.
But your Brea deck doesn't. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
At this point, my Brea deck at this point, including all of the tutoring effects and including like fetchline style things, has like 3 tutors in it, and they're all narrow. So, yeah, like I'm dedicated to the cause here. But as for land ramp, like it's pretty fine for me because it's the least offensive way to do tutoring. And I'm cool with tutoring for narrow cards, specifically grabbing basic lands, for example. That's like the least offensive thing you can tutor out, even though it does give you more resources to work with.
So, how do you feel about cards like Hour of Promise, the ones that specifically grab any 2 lands?
It's 5 mana, dude. It's a 5 mana tutor that just accelerates your mana a little bit. I'd
rather play like 3 visits and go grab my duel or my triumph.
Yeah, like land tutoring to me gets like you need it to enable some decks. I also genuinely feel like 1 mana ramp is highly undervalued in Commander for green.
Play more land where else.
Yes.
Play more Birds of Paradise, please.
Wild Growth.
Wild Growth, Birds of Paradise, Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystic, your Noble Hierarchs if you can afford, if you can actually play that in your deck.
Fyndhorn Elves.
Those. Yeah, that type of ramp, because that's really important. And of course, at the more casual level, you want more card advantage built in, which is why things like Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, and Explosive Vegetation grow in value. But I also find that exploitable. You're playing If you think of explosive vegetation as divination, play 2 extra lands.
It sounds better.
I think it sounds a little better, but that's kind of just what it is, right?
In a way.
Yeah.
I will say I got a kind of a funny thought when you were talking about 1 mana ramp.
Mhm.
I know there was like a conversation about how everybody's only playing 2 mana ramp in Commander nowadays, and now we're
Yes.
advocating for 1 mana ramp.
Yes!
Yeah.
Go lower.
No,
Go.
no.
We're
Keep
beating
in
man to the
mind-
punch. We're beating to the punch.
Keep in
Dude.
mind, we are talking about 1 mana ramp,
It would just
not specifically like Soul Ring. We're talking about the stuff that you have to wait a little bit to actually wait a turn cycle to actually use. So it's effectively on turn 2 plays a ramp source.
Mhm.
Correct.
Yeah, it was
It's
just
not
fun
fast
to me,
mana,
of course.
basically,
Yeah,
is what
it's
I'm trying to say.
because your Birds of Paradise has summoning sickness, unless you're playing
Yeah.
like According Crossroads like a madman.
To
But,
note though, by doing turn 1 ramp like Wild Growth Land of War Elves, it allows you to turn 2 Kodama's Reach, which just accelerates your mana further. So it does kind of exacerbate this issue, right? To get onto my opinions, this is only really a problem for this game, right? When you talk about increasing your resources through like your general resources, Hearthstone, for instance, I haven't played Hearthstone in like 5 years, so I'm talking a little bit out of my ass here. I feel like the Shaman class had spells where you could like increase your mana or your whatever they were called, the little mana
Druid.
Druid. I was close.
Mhm.
That you could cast spells in order to increase your like accelerate your mana in that sense. That doesn't
You
take a
can do
card
that.
out of your deck, but
Yep.
it's the same thing in this game. It's just in order to accumulate more resources, they have to be cards in your deck. If this is like Arena, you could do like conjure a basic land to your battlefield, and that kind of doesn't tutor, but does the exact same thing. But we're playing paper. We don't got that shit.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
Hey man, I can play Orvar.
you could, and I respect you for it. But I mean that's the reason why it has to be out of your deck, is that's why I don't have as much of an issue.
Yeah.
I want those strategies to exist. I want that to be play patterns because they are interesting. Some people like to cast big splashy spells. I'm included. I like casting dumb shit for way overcosted, but to get there in a reasonable game, you have to accelerate your mana, and that's where Green Land Ramp really shines. But Artifact mana still does that as well, and it's a lot more easy to hit. But I think it kind of compounds off the issue of, Logan said, lands are sacred. And if you get more sacred things in the field, people can't touch them. And if you touch them, you can complain. Like, it kind of goes into that too.
Yeah, the problem is kind of a social one.
Mm-hmm.
I want more I want more interactable ramp. Like, I want to play them. I want to play the game with my friends and do things to them.
But also,
let more Stone Rain effects wizards do it.
Yes.
But also, as a player, I know that if you play Collector Oof, I'm going to not play Artifact mana. Like, I'm going to. It comes to the issue of metagaming each other. If you play a lot of creature removal, I'm not going to do that. If you play a lot of Artifact hate, that is the issue. And that's why Rule 0 is so important. Brought it back, boys.
Yes,
well,
absolutely.
Ethan, it's maybe because you like to combo with artifacts that I like to play Collector.
I'm just going to say this, listeners of the podcast. Spoiler alert. If you play Collector Oof in specific decks of Ethan, he will more than likely just concede the game on the spot.
I have never done that. I have never conceded to Collector
He'll
Oof.
practically concede the game on the spot.
I mean, if
Ethan
I can't
will
do
cry.
anything, I mean, I'll cry.
If you took out 6 of his mana, yeah.
I will cry if you like. I play Artifact lands, so if you hit my actual lands in that sense, I can't do anything. I won't concede because that's shitty. Especially
It's the most efficient way to collect Ethan tears.
Yeah, real talk. My Brea deck is playing a whole lot of Artifact mana at the moment, and every single one of the Artifact tap lanes it can play now. Collector Oof is the one card I'm just horrified to play against.
That or Kataki, man. Kataki not as much, as at least keep that stuff around, but like Kataki, oof.
Yeah.
And then also
Collector Oof is a Doomblade, so
and also on
Does
fetch
have
lands.
Doomblade.
yeah.
Don't dice to Doomblade me. Do not do that bad faith argument there, good sir. I just want to talk about fetch lands now, and while the issue of you guys all mentioned it. I have not really a problem with the fetch lands other than the price point, but the idea of also with Green Ramp, it adds consistency to your mana. If you're playing a 3-color deck and you could always reach, you can get your 2 non-green colors and have those to play. It fixes your mana. I want people to be able to cast their spells and be able to play the game, because I've seen a lot of new players. I had a friend over last time trying to teach him with previous kits from Kamigawa, and one game he literally had like 9 planes in his draft deck and 7 swamps, and he drew 6 planes and he couldn't cast the spells. And he just like, okay, well, I can't do anything. My hand's full of black-white cards, and I only have white mana. And I rather make sure we don't have games where one person doesn't play because they have mana problems. And Fetchlands fixes that issue. Granted, with budget restrictions, that is a little bit of a more of a conversation. But if no budget, with no budget, I think like Fetchlands are perfectly fine, because if you're tutoring out a triome, it fixes your mana pretty well, but you're not doing anything busted with a triome. Original duels are good, but like that doesn't. It's not a Gaia's Cradle. It's not anything that like progresses the game further than, oh, I can cast a Ponder or a Lightning Bolt. Like that's my 2 cents.
I will say Wizards has also been printing a lot of duels without the basic land types. So fetch lands are kind of not necessary because you can just load up your deck with duels that you don't need to fetch anyway.
Absolutely.
I was going to say something along the lines of fetch lands are kind of overrated in Commander.
I think so. Yeah.
Like, because of the sheer amount of duels now that you can run that don't have basic land types that are actually really good. Specifically, like, I know the Crimson Vow, Midnight Hunt dual lands.
The slow lands, yeah.
The slow lands, the Battle Bond lands.
Yeah, which are essentially true duels in the Commander game, just not fetchable. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And just like general better deck building that we have now compared to back, years ago. Fetch lands just aren't really necessary outside of the shuffle effect. The shuffle effect, I think, is probably the more powerful thing that most people don't actually talk about with fetch lands.
Yeah, I think the shuffle effect is actually better than the land grab now. And I guess there is the deck thinning argument in like there's a non-zero percentage, but it's essentially irrelevant.
Yeah, deck thinning is not too much of a relevant thing, but it does come up, right? It's part of the reason why cards like Explosive Vegetation do have some relative powers, because of the card advantage it produces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's why land tax is a house.
Mm-hmm.
Land tax. Land tax draws 9. I don't care what you say.
Yeah. I guess that's also. Does land tax fit into this? Because it is a tutor. It does get lands, but it only gets basic lands. And if you're playing mono white, I think it's just fine because you're playing mono white.
Fast one is in the format, so I'm not that scared of it. You kind of have to be behind to get the draw anyway, or at least on par, because you can just be going third behind the green ramp player who's going second, right?
Yeah. It has some serious ass to it. Like it's not literally free, but it's one of those cards where I'll play it in even a lot of 3-color decks. I will play it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you're just getting basics out of your deck. So
correct, because again, basics are like the least offensive thing someone can tutor for. So I don't feel too bad about it, especially if when you're in white in particular. You don't really use the lands that effectively. Like if this was. It doesn't even work that great in a green deck, right? Like a green-white deck that plays.
Yeah,
that's.
It was bad in
I think
I played it in Synthesis.
I think
awkward.
Yeah.
I think the funniest thing in white decks is that their land ramp turns itself off.
Yeah,
because if you Cartographer's Hawk, to bring it back to that card, if you Cartographer's Hawk a land out, okay, cool. Now you're ahead on lands. No more Cartographer's Hawk for you. It's just a shitty flyer.
Look, white gets all the redheaded stepchild effects. Like, hey, these are not good enough to be in all the other colors. We're just gonna give them to white.
Yeah, and then get the occasional like Esper Sentinel or
Smothering Tide
that you can still pay your way out of, by the way.
Yeah.
So I think we've kind of established like our thoughts on it, and we can go in the future to like what our ideal Commander format would be. That could be a podcast episode down the line. But
entire episode.
Thank you to the fantastic question for Justin. We really appreciate you asking that and helping us clarify. If you guys have more questions, please leave them in the comments. We love answering these. We really were, as soon as we saw that question, we were like, oh shit, we get to answer this now? Okay, let's go. We were so excited. We really thank you, Justin. I really appreciate it.
Guys, this validates that people actually care about our opinions.
Oh shit, really?
No
Tell
way.
my dad. Tell my dad, everybody.
This makes me so happy.
That means I have to be responsible with what I say on this podcast. Shit.
Debatably.
No, I'm still going to just spit out nothing but spicy hot takes, and nobody's gonna stop me.
Well, I feel like you're a little tame on those today. We'll bring you back on and you can throw a few more, but we'll keep it light today.
Hot
Keep in
takes
mind, I'm
episode.
trying to be nice to the host, Ethan and Jason here, because I know for a fact I have made them cringe quite a bit with stuff I have said about Magic
You have
cards.
said some shit.
You said some shit.
But also, I played like so much dramatically different stuff than they normally do that it kind of my perspective gets warped quite a bit.
It kind of makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So we have one more thing we want to talk about today, and that is the Zur Scale. We've teased it a little bit the past few episodes, and this is Jason's baby. Jason, tell us about it.
Yeah, so Zur Scale is something that is a power ranking scale, so to speak, on casual commander decks. cEDH does get a little bit considered to it, but cEDH generally is less built around the commanders themselves and more about the win cons within the deck. So that gets a little bit difficult to rank within the scale that we're doing. You got to keep in mind for Zur Kings, we are trying to talk about these commanders as if they were built, as if you are building around the commander. We're using 5 categories that we're talking about, which is a normal build of the deck, an optimized build of the deck. We may see some of the cards that you wouldn't expect in most builds. Usually these are geared a little more towards combo as well to be able to compete in multiplayer commander games. Talk about the support for the deck, like what is the 99 actually doing for it? How much flexibility is there in that support? And then the power of the commander. This is the raw power of it as a commander. We do this on a technically 11-point scale because we have a 0. 0 means the commander is actively hurting you. We will give you an example of one such, and since we are talking about mono white today. All right. 1s requires a lot of effort for minimal benefit. 2 requires specific conditions to be good. 3 requires some setup to be good. 4, the card is somewhat impactful immediately, but it can be great, but it takes a bit of setup. 5, your bread and butter average deck. 6, easily impacts the board, but due to support to take, it does require support to take control of a game. 7, strong, impactful commanders, usually capable of holding its own against other good decks. 8 is incredibly strong, requires minimal build around to be impactful. 9's insanely good strong decks. Doesn't require a whole lot of support from its colors to do broken things. Sometimes it's actually difficult to not do a broken thing with it. And then 10 is just turbo dumb, and you could build a deck with like 70 lands and a few choice spells, and you have a really strong deck still. It just needs a few synergies.
Cough, cough, Narset, cough, cough.
Yes,
will mention-
Narset does some
Yeah,
stuff.
Narset's going to be an example of something that's a 9 or a 10 on the scale for power rating. Turgid is an example of what we haven't come to it quite yet, but probably is just going to be a flat out 10.
It's insanely,
Yeah,
good.
it's hard to not build that in a kind of broken way. Now, this scale is going to be available to the public later. We're still working on it. I need to make this thing not be just a basic Google Doc or a basic Google spreadsheet.
Make it pretty, yeah.
I need to make it look good before I show it to people. So for now, we're just going to talk about a few commanders in mono white that we thought were things to talk about and get some feedback on it, see how people feel about this as well. First up, Adeline. We gave her an 8 normal and a 9 optimized. She's got 10 on color support. Her flexibility is a 7. She just requires you to build around creatures. And her flat power is a 9. She's really good at just building a snowballing advantage, and it doesn't take much to do it.
Yeah, she's very, very strong. Did we specify what normal and optimized were, and what's the difference?
You might see some unusual cards in one build or another, or some things that you wouldn't find at a less optimized table. For example, in an optimized build, you're going to see more stacks pieces for a deck like Adeline.
So something that's not going to be a typical, like, oh yeah, you would put that in an Adeline deck. Like, your token support is going to be in your normal stuff, but yeah, you're not thinking about, I'm trying to think what stacks piece you want to throw in. Like, is Winter Orb a reasonable include? I don't play a lot of mono white, so.
That's a reasonable include, for example.
Yeah, that would be in the optimized.
I can see like null rod maybe being in the include on the optimized because you're trying to slow the game down and beat down with creatures.
Your Thalia effects,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Draenith Magistrate's a card that you would probably find in both builds, but in some of the builds, like a more normal build that's trying to be legitimately aggro, you might not see Draenith Magistrate. So
yeah. And yeah, all this to say that Adeline's a good example of a very high-powered white commander.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And our next commander, one that we have a very interesting take on, 8.5 tails.
Yeah,
Right.
that was a fun conversation we had
Yeah,
about this
it's
one.
a 2-mana 2/2 that can takes 3 mana to use both of its activated abilities, but it can turn something temporarily into a white spell or permanent, and then give something protection from white.
Or was it protection from a color of your choice?
I believe it's just protection from white.
It's pro
Okay.
white.
It's pro
Oh, is
white.
it okay?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a little narrow, but the reason we want to talk about this is because we gave it a 5 as a normal. Like, this is a pretty average commander deck. You can do some pretty cool stuff with this. An 8 on an optimized build. And with some consideration for cEDH in this, because there are cEDH builds of 8.5 tails as full stack decks. It's got 7 on the color support. It's got a 10 on flexibility, because there's a ton of different ways you can build this commander.
Yeah, it's so open-ended. You can do just about anything in white with it.
But the raw power on the card itself, we put as a 4. 8.5 tails doesn't do a ton on its own, but it does a lot on its own.
So, as a side note, we should mention power is strictly in a vacuum just this card.
Yeah.
On its own, it's basically doesn't do a whole bunch. It's when you start giving it, it's an enabler for other chicaneries.
Yes, chicanery.
Yeah, it's the decks that it leads have a lot of flexibility in their designs, and its raw power, not the best. You are beaten down with a 2/2 Fox Cleric. Like,
Yeah, it's not necessarily a kill on sight, but if you start putting other cards around it, is when it gets really powerful.
this is one of those ones we're not like the most sure about our ranking on it, but it feels like one of those ones that's definitely worth talking about at least.
Just because it is so weird and open-ended.
Moving on, Elish Norn Grand Cenobite. We put this as a 6 for normal, 7 for optimized, 7 on color support, or support in general, 5 on flexibility, and 9 on its raw power. A 7-mana creature that makes all of your opponent's creatures just have a permanent -2/-2 alone is very, very powerful. The anthem that it gives your side of the board is also extremely strong. It's also 7 mana in white.
Jason, correct me if I'm misreading. That says 8 on our show notes. You said 9. Am I?
Sorry.
Okay.
For the
Sorry,
power.
that's my bad. 8 on the power.
Okay. I didn't want to just like intro to say you're wrong, but I didn't know if you're looking at like an updated one that I didn't have.
Ethan, I live in DC. I'm used to being told I'm wrong.
Fair.
But yeah, so Elish Norn is works really well with like token strategies and stuff like that, similar to Adeline, but it's not quite as powerful as Adeline because it doesn't snowball as much. It's something that you want to put down after you've already created your snowball, which means your snowball is going to be more interactable to begin with.
Yeah, it's a card that does a lot on its own, but it's also a card that,
And it's 7 mana.
Yeah,
So-
it's 7 mana, man. Similarly, another card that's way too much mana to be cast in Commander and can't be cast in Commander, Iona, Shield of Emeria. So this is the only mono white commander that is banned. And it is banned because of the unfun play patterns. Initially, we were going to talk about this and do like a live assessment on this, but we're running pretty low on time, so I think we can skip past this a little bit. Say that it is a powerful card, but its mana cost makes it quite difficult.
Also, it's similar to Karn Mycosynth locks when you add in Painter Servant.
Yep. Next card we want to talk about, Kataki War's Wage. We put this as a 3 on the normal, a 6 on optimized, 5 on support, 2 on flexibility, and 5 on raw power.
In a 10 against Ethan.
Fuck you.
This is the anti-Ethan card, and
This
that's
is-
the real
yes.
reason why we're talking about it.
I could end the recording
Yeah.
right now, guys. We can
You
spend this
could.
whole episode.
You won't.
We're supposed to harass Logan this episode, not me. Logan
I'm sorry, but I
is our
see in the
target.
show notes there it says meme on Ethan.
Absolutely.
I did not put that there. Just Matt.
I did. You're welcome.
No, fine. I was gonna say Matt because he's our guest. He just wanted to sow discord, but no, Jason.
So the reason we want to talk about this though is this is a deck that grows in power as your opponent's decks grow in power. What you're playing against in an optimized environment is going to see more artifact mana. It's going to see a little bit more fast mana. It's going to see things that you can disrupt more easily. The downside of Kataki is you can't play this, right? You can't play artifact mana in your deck and expect to not get taxed for it. This is the main reason why this is interesting. It's really just a card that gets better depending on the metagame it's played in, which is why it is also a cEDH deck.
Mhm.
All right, our 0. The one that is a 0 and you can't convince us otherwise. Masako the Humorless.
It's so bad.
It is a 3 mana 2/1 with flash, and blocked creatures you control may block tapped creatures you control may block as if they were not tapped. 0 on power, 0 on optimized, 0 on support, 1 on flexibility, 1 on power.
Man, those studs are gonna sound really loud in the podcast. That was coming through.
I'm sorry, but the whole point of this commander, right, is to bait your opponent into an attack.
Which they can see once in the command zone.
Exactly.
It's just there.
The command zone, public
Everyone
knowledge.
can see it. And even then, it's like, how are you building around this, right? Oh, I just want to tap all my creatures and then do what exactly? To take advantage of the blocking, you also want higher toughness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you're not trading so easily. So it's like, oh, I'll build around walls and make them attack.
In mono white?
Yeah, like, there's just no real good way to build this commander. The whole gimmick is just revealed when you reveal your commander.
It's hilariously bad.
Next one to talk about, Oswald Fiddlebender. Our birthing pod on a stick in white for artifacts. 8. We put it as an 8 for normal, 10 for optimized, 7 for support, 9 for flexibility, and 8 for power. Ladies and gentlemen, tutors are cringe.
Yep. But I still love this guy.
Yes.
I love him so much.
I do enjoy him as well. I love birthing pod effects. They're really neat.
I just want to say that I still think this is the absolute strongest white commander. Like mono
definitely
white
up there.
commander, I think this might be the strongest.
Yeah, it's definitely in the conversation. I think there's a clear like 3, which is like Adeline, this one, and Shram are like the clear like top 3 in mono white. And this one
we have had one that has scooted in to the list. I don't remember its name, but it's the Aura's commander from Neo.
Oh, Light Paws?
Light Paws has scooted into that top 3. I might take out Adeline from the strongest. But
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, that's a pretty hard debate,
Let's be a
right?
top 4 then. That's a top 4 then. Adeline is
Yeah,
just
yeah, Adeline's super good, and
yeah.
I think Light Paws contends for number 1 potentially. Like, it is maybe not the absolute best. It's much better in the casual sphere than it is in the competitive spheres. But at the same time, geez, we know the power of tutoring, and the fact that you get those blinking tutors that or the auras that you can just return to your hand and replay for 1 mana.
Conviction, I believe, is one of them. I remember the other one.
Yeah, there's one at 1 mana and Conviction's the one at 2.
2 mana? I thought that was the 1 mana one.
Nah. I don't remember the name of the one.
I know there's
the 1 mana
Sentinel
one.
Eyes, which you can escape out of your graveyard.
That's an escape-based one,
you're
which
right.
gives you a backup plan as well, which
Yes.
helps to mitigate some of the weaknesses of auras too. It's only 1 card, but it's worth noting. In general, Lightball's super strong, but Oswald has similar issues. Ask for things to be in play first, which makes things a little more interesting. But then you can do reanimation loops with similar to what Teshar decks are doing.
But better.
Yeah.
Teshar's so bad. I love that deck. It's so bad.
It's quite good though. I think it's like the 5th best commander in mono white.
It's so clunky, but so powerful.
Oh, extremely.
Now, keep in mind, we're also talking about casual spheres. Teshar in the actual cEDH meta is pretty okay.
That's also a deck that only exists because of its commander, which makes it something I would consider when talking about this list.
Yeah, and Teshar combos are kind of fragile, which is why they don't do super well in cEDH.
Require graveyard, and it's also like 4 moving parts, essentially.
Activated abilities of artifacts.
Yep. Collector oof. Big oof.
Mm-hmm. The last card we wanted to talk about, which this is going to be one that is kind of like a litmus test thing. It's Safara, Sky's Blade. Normally, there's a 7 mana 7/7 with vigilance and flying, or is it lifelink and flying? I think it's something along those lines. And it gives all of your other flying creatures indestructible. But you can also cast it for 1 white mana by tapping 3 or 4 flyers. 4 flyers. We gave this a 4 on power, a 4 on a normal, 4 on optimized, 4 on support, 1 on flexibility. It really doesn't have a lot of options aside from just play cheap flyers.
You are playing flyers.
Yeah, play cheap flyers. That's what you got, right? And then a 4 on its individual power. So this is an oddball commander that we wanted to talk about because it's one of those ones that does one scary looking thing and then you deal with it and it's not scary at all.
Blasphemous Act is very good against this because it still just wipes the board because the indestructible goes away when Safara goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, red board wipes. The main strength of indestructible for your whole board is to play against board wipes, right? This will still stop Damnation and Wrath of God effects, but it doesn't interact with red board wipes.
Yeah, incredibly poorly. Also, it's kind of worth it to note there's a lot of green effects that deal damage to flying creatures. Interacts pretty poorly with that as well.
Yeah, you don't see those very often, but
no, they aren't common. But
yeah, I mean, I still see. I'll occasionally see like Nylea's Intervention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Nylea's Intervention is a card that gets played because it's modal. But somebody could be like, "Oh, you're playing Safara? Well, I guess the other half of my card now works."
When you play a game against Safara, the board very quickly self-corrects, and then Safara has a very hard time coming back online.
Yes, and you lose out on like heroic intervention because you're not in green. You do still get flawless maneuver, but and you get Teferi's protection and stuff like that. But there's being in mono white kind of limits your protection options, and this becomes kind of a pseudo Voltron because of that. Because you want to get Safara out and then absolutely protect the shit out of her.
Yep, she is a 3-shot with commander damage.
That too. It is worth noting that she is a 7/7. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 is that good number for checking on commander damage. 3-turn clocks are extremely useful. And again, limiting on the protection options. Like, white has a lot of like auras and things you can put onto this. You have to take a turn off to attack to get Safara down, usually. And you can play cards like Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots, but you're also, again, still not protected from red board wipes, which, realistically, guys, I see more Blasphemous Acts than I see Wraths of God.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And at this point, I see Toxic Deluge more than I see Damnation.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're kind of similar in price, and Toxic Deluge is a mana cheaper, and doesn't care about indestructible. Yeah.
Now, Safara's not a bad deck, but we would consider it weaker than the average commander deck, but only a little bit so.
Because it's one note and is a one note that is extremely interactable with.
That is the mono white commanders we wanted to talk about for the Zur Scale this week. We are still working on it. It takes a lot of time for us to actually find time to meet together to talk about these.
We are busy people.
Man, when there's 100 commanders in one color that you got to work with, it takes time to go through and evaluate each and every one of them. But yeah, we're hoping to have more of this ready for you. Probably won't have it ready for the next week, but maybe in the following month.
And with that, I believe that's going to wrap up our podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you to Matt for being our guest host this week. Thank you for Logan to step up and fill Cameron's shoes while he's enjoying the sport ball. And thank you, Jason, for all your contributions to all this stuff. Again, thank you all for listening. This has been the Wrinkly Brain podcast. We have a gameplay video that came out last Friday with Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Commanders. We'll be back in 2 weeks to bring another guest host from SmoothBrain on. We don't know what we're talking about yet, so big old surprise there. This has been Ethan, Jason, Matt, and Logan of the Wrinkly Brain podcast. Thank you for all for listening. Have a great day.